You skipped it, you dissed it, you said it's a bore. But what if that film's got a little bit more? What if I don't like it? What if it's bad? What if it's awkward or lazy or sad? But what if it's genius, a total surprise? What if it's gold when I open my eyes? We're watching the films you love to avoid. Now sit down and deal with your cinephile void. What if I don't like it? Let's give it a spin. You might hate it or love it. Let's dive right in. Welcome to What If I Don't Like It, the podcast where we put our movie biases on the table before diving into a film we might have been avoiding. This time, we're talking about Richard Linklater's A Scanner Darkly. Now, if you're a Linklater fan, and especially if you're a filmmaker yourself, like our guest this week, then chances are you've been inspired by films like Boyhood, Dazed and Confused, or the Before trilogy. Those works carry a warmth and intimacy, a grounded realism that makes Linklater feel like he's talking directly to us. But here's the thing, A Scanner Darkly is a completely different beast. So let's acknowledge the hesitations first. The rotoscoping animation, which is a process of filming live actors and then animating directly on top of them. I love it, but I know that it can feel uncanny, even alienating, especially if you've never dipped into this kind of animation before. The narrative, which is an adaptation from a Philip K. Dick, is intentionally fragmented, steeped in paranoia, and drug-induced disorientation. And this isn't a fast-paced film. It drifts, it circles, it unsettles. If what you love most about Linklater is his warmth, his grounded conversations, or his naturalism, this might feel like stepping into unfamiliar territory. But this is where I get excited. It's also the kind of risk you want to see a filmmaker take. The animation isn't just style, it's substance. Its shifting, unstable look mirrors the unstable unconsciousness of the characters. It's one of the most faithful Philip K. Dick adaptations ever put to screen. It captures both the paranoia and the tragic humanity at the heart of his work. And the performances? Keanu Reeves, his quiet unraveling, Robert Downey Jr. at his twitchiest best, Winona Ryder's enigmatic cool. All of that still cuts through the animation in a way that is so hypnotic. And thematically, it's more relevant now than it was in 2006. Surveillance, corporate control, the human cost of addiction, these aren't just backdrops, they're lived in, they're felt. Linklater takes all of that and filters it through his signature compassion for human beings who are lost, searching, or broken. So yeah, you might not like it, you might find it disorienting or even frustrating. But as a Linklater admirer, as someone inspired by how he experiments with form and never stops pushing cinema into new places, this is essential viewing. Welcome to the episode, everyone! I am really excited for this one because I have someone I really love talking to with me, and I have a film that I really love talking about. And it's not that, like, every episode isn't pretty much that. That's how I put this show together. So, surprise, another one! This time we're talking about A Scanner Darkly, and we have Victoria Roccaforte with us, who is a local filmmaker to me, and I'm just really excited. Thanks for joining us.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Have you been on other podcasts before?
This is my first time. My first time on a podcast. I know. I'm very excited. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. I'm a huge podcast nerd. I listen to a lot of film podcasts, so I'm like super excited. Yeah.
That's exciting. I do like to grab people for their first podcast. I think we've had like 4 people, maybe 5 people so far that
Yeah,
this is their
nice.
first podcast. So, breaking it in here. If you're seeing Victoria now and you're like, man, she's really interesting, she's available for booking, I mean, just email her. As always, the socials are going to be underneath this video if you're watching on YouTube, or it's going to be in the liner notes if you're listening to us via audio. Although I do encourage you to check us out on YouTube because the visuals are here and I add some stuff in and we edit some fun stuff in. Victoria, you're a filmmaker, and I actually just watched your latest short film today.
Oh my gosh, I know. And we haven't even talked about this before, so I'm excited to hear what you thought. Thanks for watching it.
I'll
Yeah.
give you all my notes right now live. Everyone loves that. Not only did I love it as a piece, I got to do something and be like extra delicious, which is I loved it as a transitionary piece for talking about this film. I feel like we can hold them together and compare them, which is so fun. A good segue. I can't get over that. But would you introduce for the audience the name of the film and the
Yeah,
concept of it?
totally. Yeah. Okay. So my short film is called Only Time Heals. I wrote, directed, and produced it. We shot it over the course of a real year through the various seasons in New England. This was definitely an homage to Richard Linklater, who we're about to talk about, not to spoil that, but he is just like someone I deeply admire and look up to. I love how he explores the passage of time, how he just sort of like shows and doesn't necessarily tell you what to think. So like these were all kind of jumping off points. The core of the film is about a family going through, I would say it's a fractured family, sort of navigating their own grief in the wake of a loss. And so each, you know, it's structured in seasonal acts. So each season is sort of dropping in on like another member through the various sort of, highs and lows and all the different points that grief can take you.
I really loved that, that you can see that time has passed for the actors.
Yeah,
They've changed a little bit in their face. It's not just like, oh yeah, it's a different wig. Like, oh yeah, I can feel the space and time that has happened. And for a film that is called Time Heals, time is another character in the film, just like
exactly.
the city is part of Sex of the City. I always love saying that.
Yeah.
So that makes it really easy to want to talk about this film because you were inspired by something that's introduced by Linklater, who is
Hmm.
experimenting in these large ways. And yeah, I really loved seeing that. It is especially delicious because it's not available to be seen. So I can't say like, guys, it's in the liner notes. Like, if people want to see it, they're gonna have to wait for festivals and stuff, right?
Yeah, and actually, I haven't even announced this yet, but we got accepted into Lava Film Festival up in Greenfield, and so in October that will be happening, and I haven't told anyone yet. So yeah, you're getting kind of the exclusive. Yeah, so it's
Delicious.
hopefully going to be hitting more screens, and then it'll be available after that.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah. So I'm super excited for. There's nothing like watching what you've made like in a live setting, so that'll be really really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said it technically took a year to make. How many
Yes.
filming days would you say you put into it over that time?
We own so okay, so we actually shot the winter scene first, which was the most climactic scene, which
Yeah.
was in, which was interesting. That was purely just because it was winter when we were ready and we had done pre-production. Winter took 2 days, so we shot that over 2 days. So the guy who plays the father, that's his real family house. That's been in his family for generations. So it was already
Nice.
so lived in, and we knew, and I pretty much wrote that scene and anything that would take place in his house for him in his house. So if he hadn't agreed to do the movie, I don't know what would have happened. 2 days for that, 1 day for spring, so the bar scene. 1 day, let's see, okay, so what are we at? So we're at 3 days. Spring took also 1 day. And then yeah, 1 day for the final fall and the first fall. So only six filming days. Yeah. I actually haven't thought about that before. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
bad. I mean, A
Yeah.
Scanner Darkly, the film we're here to talk about, took, I want to say, 23 or 27
Yeah.
days to film, but then 18 months to do the animation on.
Oh my
And that's kind
gosh.
of like
Yeah.
I feel like your short has that same sort of feeling about it. I know you had post production turmoils, but also just the fact that the actual space was a year of time to find these 6 particular days.
Yes. Totally.
It's fascinating because it's a short, but it was so long.
It was so long. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it pretty much took 2 years from like start to finish, which is crazy when you think about, 6 days of filming for sure. Yeah.
I mean, again, going back to this movie, I think they said it was 310 hours per 1 minute of animated film in the doc
Yeah.
I saw about shooting it. So like, I just wish people understood how
Oh my
much
God.
goes into it. So when I think about watching a movie that I'm disliking, I usually go two different ways. I'm usually like, dude, it's so hard. And people showed up and they had an idea, and then sometimes I'm like Prue Lee from the Great British Bake Off, where I'm just like, this isn't worth the calories. I can't believe money was spent on this. 5 other films could have been made with this budget. And I don't know
Right.
entirely
Right.
how I fall sometimes.
That is so real because it's like even when I watch something bad or that just doesn't resonate with me, I'm like that was still really hard, probably. Like that was still really hard to make. So it's like to an extent, I don't know, like I kind of like try to respect the process, but also like, yeah, it's like okay to not like things, you know?
Yeah, it's
Totally.
it's a fine line. As we sit here for a show called "What If I Don't Like It," it's a fine line to define that. So before we go more into the movie, there are three questions that I always ask my
Hmm.
guests when they are new, to kind of give us a feel for you as a viewer, because we're talking to you as a filmmaker, and we understand a little bit more about what you're coming from that angle. But we're also going to sit in the viewer seat. So here's my first question: what is the first film you remember seeing?
First film I remember seeing was probably, do you remember this animated film called The Quest for Camelot
No.
from the probably mid to late 90s, The Quest for Camelot? I remember going, so my grandfather on my dad's side was like a huge just film lover. Like he was like the definition of a cinephile. He would take me and my cousins to Blockbuster like all the time in Southeast Texas, where my family's from. And
Mhm.
I just have so many memories of us going to Blockbuster, and he would let us pick one, but then he would pick one that we'd have to watch too, because he was just such a, Godfather, old Western type of guy. And so I remember going to Blockbuster and being like, what? Blockbuster, it was just such a cool like experience.
Yeah.
I miss it. I miss it so much. And I remember just picking that one out and like just absolutely loving it. And probably at this memory, I was probably like 4, but I'm sure there were others I watched before that. But yeah, that was a great movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that somebody put me down as a baby and made me like sit in the room while they watched something else. My parents were
Right.
notorious for not caring that I was in the
Same.
room. Like maybe my first movie is Trilogy of Terror, but like the first movie you remember. So this is interesting because I just watched the documentary on the making of Scanner Darkly, and I thought. So you said the name of the movie, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that movie, but for some reason I have a database entry for it. Lance Myers was the head animator on Quest for Camelot and was a head animator on Scanner Darkly.
You're lying.
No.
That is actually, I had no idea. That is crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
I haven't even looked up Quest for Camelot in so long. I had no idea who wrote it, directed it, anything. That is nuts.
And they don't usually list
Serendipitous.
animators. And I bet if you Googled like
Serendipitous.
connections between people, be
Yeah.
like, there's no connection. And like,
Well,
he just
yeah.
prattles off a couple of things that he'd worked on. And he was like, oh, yeah, mostly doing 3D stuff because I'd work on Space Jam. But then I'd also worked on, and he said, Quest for Camelot. And I was like, I've never even
You're
heard of
lying.
that.
You're
And I just
lying.
Googled it right now to triple
I
check it.
love that
And
movie.
yes,
My God.
Lance
Well,
Myers is a professional animator who worked on
crazy.
Quest for Camelot and Scanner Darkly, lead
You're
animator for
lying.
Pivotal.
Oh my God. Well, because it's so funny you say that because the surprising credits I was gonna bring up were like George Clooney and Steven Soderbergh,
Woo!
executive producing, and Aaron Brockovich is like one of my favorite movies. And I was like, wait, like how did they get involved? But that's actually even crazier. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna go watch Quest for Camelot again. I haven't seen it in so long.
It's calling
Yeah.
out to you. Yeah,
It's like come back. Yeah.
come watch us. When you start to look at executive producers on stuff, it gets really like, oh yeah, I'll just put my money into some. I was watching a very weird Japanese film that is technically erotica. Uh,
Oh.
it was part of the character design inspiration for The Last Unicorn. So I was deep diving into this,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's called Belladonna of Sadness. And it is really artsy and beautiful. And so, like, when I say technically erotica, I mean like it is about sexual acts, but it is gorgeous.
I need to add this to my
Um,
watch list. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. You can get it on
Super
the
cool.
Internet Archive for free and watch it because it is very hard to find. Although,
Oh,
if you want to
yeah.
watch it, you want to buy it, you would have to get a physical media copy of it. It ends with "Thank you, Elijah Wood," as the text. The movie ends, and this is a movie from like 1968, and it says "Thank you, Elijah Wood." And my husband goes, "Can't be that Elijah Wood."
Right.
And then you look it up, and like he's the executive producer who paid to have it. He has an animation company that restores and finds old animated films. So it is.
That
So
is
thank you,
so
Elijah Wood.
funny. So thank you, Elijah. Yeah, like it's like a futuristic, yeah, like ways. Well, and then it's funny you say that too, because yeah, like how could that can't be the Elijah Wood? Well, because there's also someone called Jennifer Fox who executive produced Scanner Darkly, and I was like, that's interesting. Like she was doing Transformers, like how'd she have time? And then I look it up, and it's a different Jennifer Fox in the film industry. I was like, yeah, okay, that actually tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend named Ben Feldman, and every time Ben Feldman, the actor, is nominated for a SAG award and I can vote for him, I'm always like, gotta vote for a friend. Like it's different guy, but same name.
Same name. Oh wait, Megan Fox, but Jennifer's body. I just realized. Okay, never mind, never
It's a
mind. But you know,
spoonerism.
but yeah, you know what I meant.
I
Yeah.
was picking what you were laying.
Yes.
So my next question is, what movie do you think you've seen more times than any other film? Like, what's your comfort film? What do you throw on all the time?
Oh, that's a really good one. It's funny because I mean, it's probably either I don't know why I'm obsessed with water. I'm not even a big water person, like swimming and stuff, but Blue Crush or I've seen Titanic, I think probably like I'm not even joking. I think I've seen Titanic over 35 times. I watched it way too young the first time. I was like 5, I think. And by the way, that same grandfather who would take me to Blockbuster, I watched The Godfather Part 1 when I was like 5. Like he didn't care if me or my cousins were in the room. He was like, "You're gonna learn today." And so that baptism scene was like etched in my brain for like so, and the car blowing up. Anyway, Titanic or Blue Crush? Yeah, back to the question. Yeah.
Love I love when parents do that because it burns
Right.
weird stuff in the back. So until I met my husband, I didn't know why both my sister and I cannot ask people what time it is without saying it like this. What time is it? We don't know. It's just something we've always done.
What is that from?
It's from the Diamanagala Plague Mass, which is an experimental, like, audio vinyl performance piece. But my parents were hippies. And so they would play it when we were little, thinking they're too little.
How is this an earworm? Yeah, where does this come from? No,
And
there's
so
no
one
such thing
day,
as too little. Yeah, right.
yeah, one day my husband's watching it, and I'm just like, because I know all of it, and I don't know what I'm looking at. Like,
That's happened to me so many times where something is like an earworm and I don't know where it comes from, and then I watch it decades later and I'm like, that was it.
especially if you like any kind of like techno music or dub or
Yeah.
stuff where they sample. Like,
Yes.
there's a great Thrill Kill Cult song where they sample the line from Carnival of Souls. That's just what I need. Get me some girl who's off her rocker. And like, that's when
And
I
oh, and it's
saw
like from
Carnival.
an old movie. Yeah.
It's a black and white. I saw Carnival of Souls. I was like,
Rappers love to do that. Rappers love to take like obscure like old movie lines and do that, and then
mhm.
and then if like you're like a huge nerd, like you know it or you go back and find it. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Especially the Wu-Tang Clan, which loved those kung fu
Yes.
movies.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of
Jay
kung fu movies.
Electronica. I'm trying to think of the song. Yeah, like oh my God, yeah, there's so many artists. Yeah. Who like are there's like a playlist on Spotify. I think it's like cinephile like rappers or something like, and it's like a bunch of like rappers who have like done that. And it's kind of like Mac Miller with like the watching movies with the sound off. Like there's just like yeah, I don't know, like music artists. It makes sense because it's like I'm a filmmaker and I love music, but I'm not like really musically gifted. And then maybe it's like yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you get the inverse of that. There's a
Yeah.
bunch of kung fu movies that have been dubbed over without any context by rappers, a bunch of rappers, and they're fucking hilarious.
I saw a guy do that with Hey Arnold, and then me and a friend did that and DM'd it to him, and he was like just cracking up. He was like, "That is so good." And we did it with the Extremely Goofy movie, SpongeBob. That me and my brother used to do skits. That was kind of like low key like my first film school, and so just like stuff like that. I know exactly what you're talking about though. It cracks me up when I see those. Yeah.
Yeah, Hey Arnold is
Uh,
such a deep cut one to do as well. Like,
that's my
wow.
fave. That is my fave. Oh my God. And it got pretty dark in some episodes too. Yeah, like the one where the doll is haunting the friend with the glasses or like the headless horseman through the park. As a New York City kid, you probably really liked Hey Arnold. That was one of my favorite shows as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just slightly older than you, so that like I'm more in the Doug generation,
Yeah,
if
I
you
love
will.
Doug. Yeah, I like Doug.
But I loved how Hey Arnold had. I loved how both Doug and Hey Arnold were like, we're gonna draw people and we don't care how attractive they look. They just are weird.
No.
They're all different shapes and colors and skin,
Yes.
like, and that was really attractive to
Yeah.
me. Like this guy's head
And
is a brick
the
wall.
yeah, like the diversity, like it really reflected New York. I know it was based off of like a hybrid of Seattle and New York, maybe
Mm,
for more of the illustration, but like
mm.
the people who live in Hey Arnold's like boarding house, like that to me really reflects, and like the people on his block like really reflects New York, which is really beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
good
and
times.
good lessons. I love the Pigeon Man episode's my fave.
Oh, I just downloaded a memory. Holy Mary and Joseph.
That's a
Wow.
good
I'm gonna go, I
episode.
think I might have
Yeah.
to go
Okay,
binge watch
Quest for
all of Hey
Camelot,
Arnold.
Hey Arnold. Yep, I'm like we have homework after this. Yeah.
Homework. All right. I am a little fascinated. I've always been a little fascinated by people who watch Titanic a lot.
Mm,
I
we're
was like
masochists.
13
Yeah.
when Titanic came out, and I didn't hate it or love it. It's a good movie. Like it's spectacle. It's kind of hard to not get wrapped up in it. If you don't cry for the scene with the old people holding hands in the bed, like you're dead inside and movies
I
aren't
don't, yeah.
for you. You know?
No. You're not
I do
allowed.
have
Your for privileges are revoked. Yeah.
I have one friend who has never seen Titanic, and we constantly joke about trying to get him on the show to watch
Yeah.
Titanic. Conan has come on the show and been a really great sport, and we did Moonstruck because he hates comedy. He hates romantic comedies. And he loved Moonstruck because that's an easy one. That's a
Good
good
one.
movie.
That's so good.
But Titanic might be pushing it.
It is really it's a time commitment too, which I think might
Mhm,
deter people.
mhm.
I would have loved to have seen that in theaters though, because like honestly, I don't even feel the runtime, but I'm a huge fan. So yeah.
I did see it in theaters, and at that time, it was a
My
lot
God,
for a
dude.
runtime because most movies weren't that long, and that was gonna be
Right.
like two VHSs if you're gonna rent it.
Yes.
Like, yeah, it didn't feel that long. I don't remember being like, "Oh, this is unbearable." I
This
remember
is
being like, "Wow,
unbearable.
this
Like
is
I'm
quite a
captive.
spectacle." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like,
I mean, I'm just like fascinated by James Cameron. I mean,
mhm,
in some ways, I think him and Linklater like cross over in this way. I'm fascinated by the way that they play with like form and
mhm,
like something about James Cameron to me is like he's able to write like such interesting female characters, like specifically, and such interesting stories, while also kind of balancing that sort of more techie or like science, because he's like an oceanographer, low key, like his sort of like, because for me, I'm always kind of feeling like there's a battle between like kind of like heart led stuff and like techie led stuff. Like sometimes filmmakers are really into that and not into the other. But like
mm.
James Cameron just fascinates me in that way. And it's kind of similarly with Linklater experimenting with like rotoscoping and stuff and like animating. There's something there for sure. I think it was like Titanic is like just one of the most impressive feats of filmmaking I've ever seen. Just like the scale of it, how it holds up for the most part. Some of the some of the CGI is kind of like you can tell it's 97, but you really can't tell most of it is. And Kate Winslet's also just like one of my favorite actors of all time. So yeah,
Yeah, and so much of what the water stuff is practical. So you
yeah,
still holds up because they're still in a giant tank of water that's not gonna not look like water. It is.
it's water.
I think maybe his relationship with Catherine Bigelow is part of why
Yeah,
his women feel dimensional because I
yes,
adore her as well.
yeah, same.
So you get this really dimensional, earthy kind of feeling. People talk about how Linklater is easy to work with because he so very much enjoys the process of filmmaking, and he encourages people to ad lib and add in and talk to him and be part of the process, which is so hard to do. Like when you make a film, you think about the times when you give a little bit up to somebody else and they screw you over. And you're like, I'm never going to do that again. But also, like, that's sometimes how the best things can be the ad-libbed things. Much of Robert Downey
Yeah,
Jr.'s stuff in this movie is improvised.
really, I'm not surprised by that. Yeah, yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. Yeah, yeah, like oh my God, I have so many things to say about the Linklater thing. And also, like, yeah, with James Cameron, it's like something my girlfriend and I always joke about is like how did a man write like a woman's heart is an ocean of secrets? Like, I was there a ghostwriter, or could he, like, was he really that tapped in? Like, there are just moments like that where I'm like, wow, like I feel like he gets it. And even like the class struggle with like Rose and like her destiny and her family, really impressive, like interpersonal stuff going on. But with Linklater, yeah, his approach to directing is something I've really adopted. We didn't even really have like a nailed down like script in terms of a lot of the dialogue for like some of the scenes in the short that I made. And I know that's something that Linklater has done and has kind of left it up to his actors too. And I think like it's really great to have direction and to like know where you're going, and like, but sometimes forfeiting that control and trusting your performers really does yield the best stuff. Like, something I appreciate about him is that he sort of like brings you in. Like, he's bringing you in, and his films really feel that way to me. Like, Matthew
Mhm.
McConaughey wasn't even discovered when Dazed and Confused was happening. Like, the casting director and him just struck up a conversation in a bar, and he was like, "You're perfect. Have you ever acted before?" Like, just little, Texas, just we're chatty. Like, when you're from like I'm pretty much a native Texan. I grew up a lot of different places, but mainly Texas. That's just how it is. Like, people are just chatty like that. So I'm not surprised at all that that is sort of like, yeah, how he approaches film, and it yields like such a naturalistic approach. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it feels lived in. It feels
Yeah,
real. It feels like you're experiencing a moment with the actors. And that is much
totally.
harder as a director to be willing to do, because you have to have really either participated heavily in the casting process or
Yes.
trust your casting director to get you actors who are going to be workable in this way, who aren't just going to
Yeah.
show up and say the lines and be like, "What's your problem?"
Yeah. Some actors are not improvisers, and that's okay. I think improvising is such an incredible tool, and like, even
Oh
like
my
with like
God.
the Before trilogy, right? It's like I watched that for the first time, and I'm like, so a lot of this was probably improvised, XYZ. No, it was heavily scripted and rehearsed, like, to a point where, because it's like, this is like kind of the other side of the pendulum. It's like, well, if you're so prepared and you're so rehearsed, and the movie is really like dependent on these two characters and their conversations and their chemistry, it's so like rehearsed, and it's so ingrained in them that it worked in that way. And it was actually the highest compliment, I think, to him, that it felt so improvised and natural. When I found that
Mhm.
out, I was like, no way. Yeah,
Yeah.
right? I was like, no way. Yeah.
Well, I was watching the a bit of the making of documentary, and Robert Downey Jr. was talking about his improvisation stuff, and it reminded
Yeah.
me of Robin Williams talking about his improvisation stuff on Jumanji, which is that like we think of when an actor improvs, it's because they haven't really written the screen, and that's when an actor kind of comedically improvises, but not even, because you can see this with Robin Williams as well. When you do a film, you do takes. You don't just do
Yes.
one version and maybe tonight it's funny. You have to do
Yeah.
multiple takes. And in order to improvise for a film, you have to get so well into the script itself that you
Yes.
can riff off of it. So you've given them
Yes.
the text already, and now you're giving them alternative takes that are off of that, that can be edited in without having to change all the other shots that we've already fucking done, okay? And that's when improvisation on set gets annoying. You can't run over there. We didn't
No.
take takes over there.
Continuity.
Can't
Yeah.
stay.
Continuity is a nightmare for improvising if done in that way, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
it has to be intelligent and thoughtful. And Downey Jr. is talking about how he memorizes his scripts to the point where he can do he can rattle off the anagram of them. So like I'm sorry, anagram acrostic. So he'll do the first letter
That's
of
so
every word
interesting.
in the lines that he has to do, as well as he'll know the whole lines. Because if he doesn't know it to that point, he doesn't feel like he knows it. And like that's a ridiculous level of knowing it. I love that,
Actually,
you know, like whatever
right.
works for you.
Oh my God. Memorization, like actors memorizing and the different ways that they'll do it, is fascinating to me. I love that
Mm-hmm.
he does that. That's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting, because as a visual person, I feel like I would need some type of like tool or cue like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Robin Williams, I love that you said that about Jumanji. Also a great movie. Love that movie. Like, it's kind of like how Gus Van Sant is like another person who I really, really admire. His sort of, I mean, him and Linklater just sort of, I sometimes feel like when I didn't know Elephant was directed by Gus Van Sant, I thought like the one about like the school shooting and stuff. I am kind of loosely based on Columbine. I was like, this could be a Linklater movie, like
Mm-hmm.
just like the naturalism, but like with Robin Williams at the end of Good Will Hunting, like that famous line where he's like, he stole my line or whatever. That was completely improvised and they just kept it in. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Like with continuity and stuff and like having an actor and being aware, I feel like, of knowing when that's going to help or maybe not even help. I mean, maybe just like sometimes those little, I don't know, those like little magical moments just like happen and it works and it won't change everything about the continuity and you can leave it in. And I think that's really, I think directors who let people do that are just the type of directors I gravitate toward, like a Sofia Coppola, Alfonso Cuarón, a Gus Van Sant, a Richard Linklater. Like I love that so much.
It's interesting you're mentioning all of these directors who have this almost cinema verite kind of feel about them, where it feels like you're capturing moments that weren't planned. They obviously are.
Right.
And because the absolute farthest spectrum of this is I know that the Coen brothers, when they work together, will throw you off set if you can't stick to the script. They fucking hate it.
Mm,
And I'm not even
mm.
saying like paraphrasing, you can't even get the word order out. Stormare once kept, he had trouble saying waffle, the word waffle, because English isn't his first language in Fargo. And so he wanted to say pancake house and they almost fired him. So he had to say waffle because it's Waffle House. It's not
Oh my
Pancake House.
gosh. Yeah.
So, but they create these worlds that are so surreal
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
hyper specific. Like a Wes Anderson is also like, you better get the script exactly right.
Tarantino. Yeah.
Yeah, or Aaron Sorkin, where the script is really driving this,
Yeah.
but no human being sounds like this. And then we come all the way over to these more realistic, natural. It's an interesting compromise because as an actor, you can actually get yourself in trouble by doing one on one set and one on the other set because it doesn't
Yes.
lend itself to the style of
Yes.
film that we're making.
And I have empathy for actors too with that because it's like I know in a dream world, it's like oh, I'm in control of my career and my choices, and I can go do this cinema right? Yeah, no, no, you're cracking up because you're like could be further from the truth. It's like yeah, like I'll go do a cinema verite thing, and then I'll go do this really rigid and like really like disciplined and like very like specific thing. But that's just kind of like not how it works. Like you take the opportunities as they come, you take the work as it comes, and if you're lucky, you get to work with these bigger names. But like I have empathy for that because it's kind of like being a shapeshifter among like on top of being the shapeshifter of your role. It's like being the shapeshifter for the team that you're working with, the director you're working with, the screenwriter you're working with, and like Tarantino in an interview said like I'm paying you to say my words, like I'm paying you to say my dialogue, like it has to be exact, and it's like that's your prerogative, but it's not, I'm not someone who thinks that my writing is the best. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a healthy, maybe ego check, like something that, maybe, hey, I'm just saying, maybe it's a healthy ego check. And I mean, not to keep bringing it back to my film, I really want to talk about Scanner Darkly, but like something that I often would say during the making of our film was like, I am the only person not a New England native. I'm from a huge, crazy family in the South, and I grew up primarily in the South. So, like, here's how this argument would go. And they're all looking at me like, it's just culturally so different. So I worked
Mm-hmm.
one on one with them, like, okay, if you were in this situation, what would feel true to you? And that was sort of more of the jumping off point. Because I don't want to write like a confrontation that is solely just based off of my experience, because maybe that might not lend itself to how a family in New England where things are more under the surface and maybe they're a little more internal. Like, I'm not gonna use that same approach, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, I think universal appeal for the audience has to exist, and that's often why I feel like I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Sorkin because it doesn't feel universal enough. It doesn't feel like these people would ever be this cool.
Say
I've
that.
never met
Yeah.
anyone who was this cool in my life, and so it feels a little twee. It
And you're
feels
from New
like that
York, so you would have, for
I would
sure.
have. We
Yeah.
have the patois for it. It feels a little put on, and that is really hard to do. Like we're saying about Tarantino, it's really hard to do that and fully respect it and feel like this isn't just me being like bowing down at the altar that is awesomeness because this is a you film, when we know that no film is a
Mm-mm.
one person film. It's not
No.
how films work. Impossible. Even this film is so much Richard Linklater's like composition and direction, but at the end of the day, it gets handed to an animation studio that is putting their whole feel on top of it. So like it's a collaborative medium to the extreme. I will footnote that if you've read the script for True Romance, which he wrote but did not direct, it
Direct,
is
yeah.
so far from what he wrote in certain places that might be a little bit of his like, when I'm directing, you do what I wrote, because he didn't want to get burned
Yeah.
again, kind of like Miyazaki after what they did to
Yeah.
Nausicaa, where he was like, no one ever edits my film again.
Right. Because foregoing that control when you're, yeah, yeah.
When you're so
And that
young,
I
you
can,
get burned.
yeah. And that I can understand for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like going back to the actors being important and like trying to pull from that. We were going to weave in Scanner Darkly with these questions. It'll just bleed into the rest of it.
Yeah.
I did find it very interesting because we have this sci-fi film from Linklater, and Linklater isn't really a sci-fi guy.
Mm-mm.
Like, I don't think of him as, I often forget that this is even his stuff. Like, when you mentioned loving his stuff, I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because Boyhood and Your Piece and and The Lived in Reality. And then I was like, oh, but wait a minute, he also did this. And for someone who's so loose at everything, it is one of the most faithful adaptations of a Philip K. Dick story to date. And I'm so impressed with his ability to jump into that medium and still take risks with it. As a filmmaker, do you think you would ever try something like that? Do you think you would do a big genre shift?
I think about, okay, yes, yes. And it's so interesting, right? Because it's like so much of what I really, really, really liked about Scanner is like, I haven't read the book or really read the story by Philip K. Dick, but I can absolutely, just by watching the film, absolutely see where it was a faithful adaptation in the sense that, like, how do I put this? Like, it was just so, I was hooked and I had so many questions, just like going through it. And then obviously, like, things get kind of tied up a little bit neater at the end, but like, I was like, I feel like whether or not you've read the original material, you can usually kind of tell a good adaptation from a bad one. I was so like impressed just by like, because exactly right, like I've never seen anything sci-fi from him. I was so impressed because I was like, I don't know about a sci-fi movie from Richard Linklater. But to answer your question, I'm going on a tangent. To answer your question, I think I would, and I think I often think about like remakes too. I'm like, okay, like what? Because sometimes I watch a remake and I'm like, that didn't need to happen, or maybe that, like, okay, this is like kind of a far off example, but it's like Bridget Jones, like I won't watch anything past like the first two. Those are like sacred to me and like they're too
Same!
perfect. Yeah, really, really. Yeah, like loved the music and stuff from the most recent, but I'm not gonna watch the ones without like my core, like that. Those two are too perfect, so it's very sacred to me. So it's like if I was gonna do a genre shift or a remake, it would have to be something where I know that my take is going to be maybe not something that like wows people, but like something that is interesting and lends itself to the media or to like the form, because it's like not every story can work on film, like not every book or whatever like can work as a movie. So I think like I would have to have like a very specific um take or visual in my head. Like often how I'm thinking about it is like a conversation comes to my mind first, or like a visual or like a scene comes to my mind first. So it's like if that's not happening, I don't know, like I don't know if I would. So the answer is yes, but it would have to be the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well,
Yeah.
you're hitting at the heart of the difference between reboot and remake, which I just did a recent
Yes.
video on, and
Yes.
like whether or not you want to stick to the text as it's narratively shown, or whether or not you want to be like, maybe what if Winnie the Pooh was a horror movie? Let's reboot
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah,
damn
exactly.
thing. So
Like you
like what
have that.
is more
Yeah.
tempting?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you
Top of
have
your
that spark.
head, if there was any franchise you could just do a movie in, what was your top franchise you
I've
think?
been thinking of, it's so funny you say that because especially with like the Hunger Games and stuff like coming back out and like Twilight about to hit theaters again
We
and
are a
stuff, right?
franchise family, like a time period. We love it.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, we're totally in that period right now. I think it would be really cool to. I don't think I would be the person to do this. Bend It Like Beckham is one of my favorite movies of all time. I am a huge Gurinder Chadha fan, the writer
Okay.
director of that one, and Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging and Bride and Prejudice. Oh my God, I'm a huge fan of hers. I would love to be involved in, but not the director. Maybe I'd help write. I would love to see a more accurate version, maybe not a sequel, of Bend It Like Beckham made as she initially wrote it. Because the version that came out in 2001 is not the version that she wrote. So, have you seen
Really?
Bend It Like Beckham?
Yeah, I
Such a good
have.
movie. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jess is supposed to be queer, and her and Keira Knightley are supposed to be the couple, and they wouldn't let that happen, like, basically, even though it is like fairly, I don't know if it's independent, but it's fairly low budget independent. And like, and they even allude to it in kind of funny ways, but like the coach was never supposed to be, there was never supposed to be like this love triangle, and like he wasn't supposed, that wasn't his like place in the story. So I would love to like maybe like produce or help, like assist, right, like kind of like help write a remake of Bend It Like Beckham in its true form, if Gurinder Chadha was still on to do that, direct it, mainly write it. Like,
Hmm.
I'm for that. Like, maybe I'd help her because I have her on speed dial. Maybe I'd help her do the story and I'd produce it, but like that is like that's like canon for me. So it's like that would have to be like with her wish. But I've been thinking about that a lot lately, just like how many pieces of queer media maybe we're we didn't get like in like its final form, because something like Desert Hearts, made in the 80s, which in my opinion is one of the best woman loving woman film ever made.
Good to
That was a
know.
huge swing. That was a huge swing for Donna
Oh
Deitch,
my
or Deitch, I
God.
can't remember how to say her last name. And like, it's so not something she would usually make. And I honestly I'm fascinated by the fact that they could even put that out in the 80s. So it's just interesting, right? Like, it's interesting. Maybe it's because Bend It Like Beckham had more commercial, stuff going for it. I don't know, but it makes me, yeah, like it makes you think about like how much queer media maybe we didn't get, in the 90s and early 2000s.
I think you're hitting the heart of what every independent filmmaker kind of has to deal with, which is, do I tell my story 100% true to the story I want to tell? What compromises do I make to get distribution?
Yeah,
What compromises do I
yeah,
make? If I sell the story, I have no control after when it's sold.
yes,
This is also ringing a little true to A League of Their Own, which they made into
yes,
that Amazon series, which then began
exactly.
to explore those aspects of it. But if you listen to Penny Marshall talk about making the original film, she was blocked multiple times on aspects. She was blocked on including black players as well. And this is like the early 90s. You shouldn't think it should be so bad. So, yeah, to have that be in the 80s. And again, like, what's the one with it's something boy? Something. God, I can't even remember it now.
Wait, what is like the
Boys Don't
premise of
Cry.
it?
Boys Don't Cry. That got into so much trouble trying to get a rating, and they kept trying to give it an R. And it's in that famous documentary, "This Film Is Not Yet Rated," where they talk about how the difference between that film getting a hard X and an R was after the scene where she goes down on the other character. She wipes her face, and the MPAA was like, "You can't
You're,
have that. She cannot wipe her
my
mouth. She cannot
God,
wipe her mouth." It's
please, yeah,
disgusting. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you
please.
kidding me? And that, like, so we had no, like, even what was offensive within queer media is so ridiculous.
So
And
ridiculous, yeah.
as
It's
a
never been a
filmmaker,
fair, yeah,
if your film gets an X, you
yeah.
can't be in theaters.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, how much do you like? I don't think like the average, Gen Pop person. I think like people are like, well, like it wasn't like true to XYZ. Like, I'm not gonna go see it. Like, I'm not gonna go support it.
Make
Well,
a stand.
make a stand. Girl, do you want to see it in theaters? Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you don't understand like the barriers that can happen there. It's like Granda Chadha, like, thank God she, in some ways, thank God she was willing to do that change so I could see it as a young queer person in Texas and plant that seed, even though it wouldn't be till much later, and see that representation of me being a soccer player, being queer, having friends of different backgrounds and sort of what that's like. Because, kind of the crux of the film is like the two cultures of like Jess and Keira Knightley's character, like being from different places and like the immigrant experience and like how different it is from Keira Knightley's. It's just like, it's so loaded. And so it's like, it still is a very, very important, I consider it still a piece of queer media, and it's really important. So I'm glad that she made that concession to still put it out. But I would have liked to have seen her real cut, like her real version. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because we're talking about a period of time where like it's not quite as media available as right now, where like you can turn on Netflix, you can turn on Hulu. Even if your parents are kind of against you watching queer media, you can find queer
Right.
media. Yeah, like because
Right.
I mean, I grew up in New York City, so it wasn't
Yeah.
hard to find a VHS of cheerleaders don't cry. But like if you are in the middle of Texas, they're not going to have a copy of it there.
My mom also didn't see the connection I saw. Just, I mean, it is what it is. Like, there's no way my family would have taken me to see something like that. Like, there's just no way. Like, they are small town evangelical, super staunch Catholic people. Like, it just is what it is. Like, in some ways it's kind of like, it was kind of like a are you a friend of Dorothy kind of thing, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And kind of similar with A League of Their Own, exactly. Like, Penny Marshall was still able to, I guess, like throw the ball to the black character who then the series,
Just a
like,
little.
like it's ridiculous, but it is kind of like, okay, like for the greater good, like what is the concession? Yeah.
She compromised as opposed to totally roll over
Right.
on that particular one.
And she got flack for that, but I don't know if it was as deserved, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And then you get queer coded stuff like Birds, the Hitchcock film, is
Oh, oh, it's a Hedron. Yeah.
it's a movie about queer hysteria and how stupid that is. And yet people can totally watch it and think like
It's
it's a
just,
movie about birds killing people, and you're like,
I
did
go
you
to Kate
not
McKinnon in essence.
like, yeah, where again, like we're thinking about how the characters in Bend It Like Beckham have a better relationship with between the two. The smoky main character who's supposed to be like the best friend of the guy we want our protagonist to be in, like her and the protagonist have better chemistry than she and he do at any point in the movie. I don't know what movie
Right.
you're watching.
Right. We're right. It's kind of like with Fried Green Tomatoes, another one of my favorite all-time favorite movies. I
We're
mean,
doing that soon on the show.
oh, are you really?
I've got
Who
two
who
bros who
didn't
have
think it?
never
Oh,
seen it.
you're doing the Lord's work, KT. You're doing the. I was about to say, who doesn't want to see that? I was like, wait, because that movie changed my life. And you want to talk about queer coded? Barely queer coded. Yeah, yeah. That's
Like that's like when you're
fantastic
watching
movie.
Supermarket Sweep from the 80s, and there's like the two people, and they're like, we're best
We're
friend
roommates.
roommates, and we design theater props together, and we own a Bichon Frise, but we're friends.
I have a friend who went to University of Texas of Austin. I don't know why I just said the government name, UT Austin, and moved to LA and was out and still is in LA and has been there for like 40 years. And he um is a gay man, and he went out there to be an actor, and so he would do game shows like
Yeah, yeah.
with like women, just like book gigs like that. And we always laugh about that because it's just kind of like, dude, like be for real. Like, yeah, it cracks me up, like the things that queer people have had to go through. Yeah.
Yeah. How many of them have been on? That was a big one for the match game, because you'd get paid to be one of the three contestants. Just hope they don't pick you, whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
you're
that
just,
fantastic Anna Kendrick one about the one time it was a
yes,
serial killer.
that's the worst. Yeah, yeah, you're like best case scenario or worst case. That was a fantastic movie too. Oh my
I
gosh.
enjoyed
Yeah.
that movie. Good one.
Yeah.
Last question before we go officially into
And to
only
scan
the
it.
movie.
Yeah,
No
I
one's
was about to
leading
say.
in. This is a very loose style. This is, for people who want to be near a conversation. If you could watch any movie when we're done, it could be a movie that is already in existence. It could be a movie that has not yet been made, but you know it's coming out. Or it could be a story that you wish was made into a movie. We're done. You can watch anything as a movie. What would it be?
That's a great question. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Thank you.
Will you say it one more time?
Any narrative you
I'm
want to
stalling.
be a movie, what would it be? It could be something that you've already seen too. You could just be like, dude, when this is done, I would love to watch Fern Gully because it's a great day out and I love the movie Fern Gully. Or you could be like, House of Leaves is a fantastic book, but I wish they could make it into a movie. It's virtually unfilmable, but I wish they could. Or anything in your mind.
My gut instinct right now, there's so many biopics that I wish were made,
Mm.
but the one that like this isn't a biopic, but the movie that's really coming to mind is Reality Bites, directed by Ben Stiller with Winona Ryder. Hey,
Winona
segue.
Ryder. Yeah.
I think that is like a fantastic film, even though it's about Gen Xers kind of going through transition and shot in based in Houston. That's a great movie for just anyone in like a transitional time. Like anyone, I think especially when they're kind of jumping off, like kind of jumping off point in that movie is like graduating and not knowing what's next. I think like we're in a time right now, or at least I am in a time where I'm like, I don't know what's next. Everything kind of feels like it's on fire. So that movie brings me a lot of comfort, and it doesn't ever pretend to have all the answers, which is something I really appreciate about Linklater's work as well. He wasn't affiliated with Reality Bites, but Ethan
Feels like
Hawke
he
is in
was.
it. Yeah, it deeply feels if
I
you
think because
told me
Hawk is
that.
in it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like if you told me that he was involved in it, I'd believe you. It feels like a Linklater movie. So yeah, that's like a huge comfort watch for me. So I probably will watch that at some point this week. Yeah,
That is a really great transition into talking about this movie because we're talking about this overall feeling in our world right now that is
yeah.
just this sadness, this like brokenness, this conspiracy laden world where paranoia is everywhere. And we are never being more watched than right now, which is funny because this is a story that Philip K. Dick wrote in response to his own reality. Is one of the most personal stories he ever wrote. He wrote a lot of like fictional stories and a lot of vibe stories. Obviously, the most common one being "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep," which inspired so many different movies because it's not a specific narrative, it's just a concept. And so people went and did Blade Runner and all these other different things with it. But this story is about how, sorry.
That makes sense. When I had no idea he wrote the story that inspired Blade Runner. I've heard of Do Androids Sleep? There we go. Crazy.
He's basically one of the first authors to start talking about the concept of like the consciousness of the machine, the ghost in the
Yes,
shell, if you
sentience
will.
or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
this like, what if it feels and thinks too? Like, what if we are but a god that's made
Which,
another
oh my
creature?
God, yeah. So many movies came out of that too, like AI and Ex
Mm-hmm.
Machina, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had no
We
idea
just
that he
love
was
it.
sort of like the jumping off point. That's cool.
Even Alien Earth right now is really about that concept of like, what is consciousness? What does it mean to even be alive? And then more specifically in this story, he's writing in response to this. He was part of the counterculture in California. A lot of his pieces are very California-in feeling about them. I do often get him mistaken with Kurt Vonnegut, and I was on like my very
Yes.
first podcast, and like I was with a bunch of bros and they were grilling me so hard. And I had mentioned that they're like, who's your favorite? And they were like really smart people. I won't name the podcast, but it was an established smart people. And they were like grilling me on my
Joe
favorite book.
Rogan.
I'll tell you when we go off air.
Kidding.
And I was saying that like, I really like Vonnegut and Philip K. Dick. And being the bros that they were, they immediately
Sorry.
said, oh yeah, name some. And I was like, and so I accidentally, I will often switch them back and forth and say, I think I said Breakfast of Champions was my favorite Philip K. Dick, and that is a Vonnegut, but they feel similar.
And so that I would be like, name five Sofia Coppola movies, but I don't want to have to go bar for bar with you
I
right
know.
now. Well, yeah, I mean, Vonnegut.
You say you're a feminist, name
Yeah,
five
you say
women.
you're a feminist. Yeah, who feels safe around you? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the internet joke about like name five women who feel safe around you. Yeah, Vonnegut and Bradbury, like Ray Bradbury, are like huge. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because I was gonna bring that up, like Harrison Bergeron, the short story by that's either Vonnegut or Bradbury. See, I do the opposite. Like I get Vonnegut and Bradbury mixed up all the time.
Fair, fair.
One of them wrote a story like kind of similar, like in that vein of like about sentience and about like it's not really about like robots, but it's about like have you ever read the short story? It's like the guy who has to be like chained down because everyone in the society has to be equal. Like no one can be like all the
That's
dancers
got to
have
be
to
a
dance in the
Bradbury. That's
same way.
such a
I think it's
Bradbury
Bradbury. I think
concept.
it's
Yeah, that's like an
Yeah.
Anthem and an Ayn
Yeah.
Rand. They're like, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's very, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is someone who Linklater really likes because, he's so big into like, I don't know, like philosophizers like that, like
Mm-hmm.
James Joyce and like, all these people. Like, but the whole premise of the story is like, no one can have a better ability than the other person. Everyone has to be at the same level. So dancers have to wear weights around their ankles. And like this guy, I can't remember what his gift is, but he has to be like dumbed down, I think, or like zapped in his brain and like chained and like just a really and I read that when I was like 15 in English class, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, yeah. So I get those writers mixed up, kind of like you with Philip K. Dick and Vonnegut, and Vonnegut's fantastic too, and he's more like lyrical, I feel like, and I can totally see where Linklater would take like the dream versus reality from him, maybe also. But yeah, totally, I see that.
And this piece is so dreamy, but it is literally his
Yeah,
reality. So he's existing in California, he's part of the counterculture, and the government is spying on him and his friends because of their drug use. So, like,
right.
there were times when he would go home and his house would clearly have been ransacked and looked through.
Well,
And
this really happened to him.
he would talk to his lawyer, and his lawyer would be like, it was probably the government. I mean, we don't know. And then and they never would know. And so that's why at the end, when
Wow.
you see that list of people, that is almost an amalgam. So what happens at the end of the book is actually, it's more of a like narrative. He talks about how they died and their meaning and their importance, and how this is all based on the people around him who became addicted to drugs and had their lives taken away because of that. And this desire to want to blame them instead of the larger picture of the world that
Problem.
we're
Yeah.
in, and this problem that we're having, which I feel like, why does America want to blame an individual when in fact we are looking at a system that
Yeah.
profits off of
Classic.
that individual being sick,
Classic.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, drugs were planted in lower income black and brown neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Like in, you know, the Reagan era. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
some people don't believe that. Like, these problems don't just come out of thin air. You know what I mean? Like, and also like it is more nuanced and more, complicated than that. It is a systemic issue. And I'm curious, like, with the ending of the book, what sort of, like, is there a person in Philip K. Dick's, or wait, no, is that his middle name? K?
Okay,
Is
yeah.
there a person in his life who kind of, maybe not exactly, but kind of ends up in Keanu Reeves's character's situation? Or, like, how does that sort of, like, or does Philip K. Dick, like, get clean? Like, I'm really curious, like, how the book adaptation maybe differs from the movie.
It's very close with a few exceptions. Donna's character isn't the, and this is the, here, if you're gonna have your spoiler alert here, here's the
Yeah,
big spoiler, stop
yeah.
listening now.
Spoiler alert.
isn't
Yeah,
Bob, isn't his boss in the end. They kind of put that in to make it feel a little bit more connected. She's still a part of the story. It's just more that her character is there to humanize Bob, or Keanu Reeves' character. And the ending tone is shifted. And that is probably what Linklater has added the most. In the book, it ends with I guess it's now Bruce. Bruce, everything that happens. He sees the flower, but it's very not hopeful. You don't
I
entirely
see.
get the feeling. There isn't the line about him hiding it in his sock
His
or anything like
friends.
that
Yeah,
for his friends. That Linklater adds in. I think that is the touch that lets you know he didn't just film a script of the book, because he's so hopeful, even in the stuff that is,
yeah.
even when he's taping or filming someone who's so broken, he does it in such a beautiful way.
Humanity. Yeah, he has such good
Yeah.
humanity for his characters. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, I was curious, sort of what that looked like versus the book. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that your short kind of does that as well. You're talking about these people are in this really grief, this moment of grief, and it's hard to want to make an audience member want to sit there and say, like, we're going to look at a really difficult and shitty time for someone and we're going to experience with them.
yeah,
But what it does is it allows you all of the capacity to have that emotional experience, to try what it's like to grieve a loved one. We're all going to have to do it. But then to put it away and be like, that was just fake. So when it happens in real life, it won't be so overwhelming.
Right. Yeah. And everyone's grieving all the time. And it's like, what would it look like to compassionately examine that and examine people? And like, truly, like, if you drop in on somebody in any moment, in any version of their grief, in any stage of grief they're in, what does that what does that look like? And I think you can tell a compassionate take to a, maybe a more judgmental tone. Like, audiences are smart. Like, you can feel that. And I definitely agree. Like, Linklater just always has this twinge of like hopefulness. Like, I think even with the Before trilogy, it's like there's so much hope in the first two. And then the third one, Before Midnight, can be a little bit of a tougher watch because it's reality, and it ends on sort of that maybe like ambiguous hopeful note of like, oh, maybe they'll figure it out. Not to give any spoilers, but I mean, also we are kind of spoiling stuff, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, it's okay.
I feel like Linklater is definitely not someone who shies away from reality, but with this compassionate and like darker subjects of like, addiction and, systemic abuse and surveillance and stuff. And he still is able to have that hopefulness and that compassion. And it's never in like a corny, I'm telling you what to think. This is like an after school special or whatever. It's always very,
Mm.
very intentional and well done. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very hard to walk the line of having this moment driven vignette style films that he likes that make big commentaries on being alive. If
Right.
like, I don't, Terrence Malick maybe does big commentaries on being alive, similar, but like totally different vibe. Where I was like, I don't want to sit down for a Terrence Malick movie. I do want to sit down for these kinds of movies.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even have the
Yeah.
words for what you're doing. It's so beautiful. I love it.
It's so hard to put into words. Yeah. I often find myself sort of like with like analyzing
Hmm.
films and directors' works. Like, I'm such more of like a written person. Like, I feel like I can really write out my feelings and my analyses, but speak like that's been kind of something I've had to that's a skill I've had to try to hone of like, how do I articulate these visual things? Like, and I completely agree with you. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, I want to sit down for a Linklater movie. Like, even Hitman, which came out recently, like, I was like, this is kind of a departure, but like, he's still woven some Nietzsche and some philosophizing and some identity stuff, and even like a kind of more of a big blockbuster where it's like, let's be honest, like, the point is that Glenn Powell is popular right now and there's a beautiful lead also in it. Like, but it is based on this Texas Monthly article and this real person, and it still is like Linklater. And so I know some people maybe thought that that was like such a crazy departure. Like, it was too like, oh my god, a Netflix movie and like a Linklater Netflix movie. But it's like, yeah, but like, you, so many things. But also like, yeah, like it's still him. Like, I didn't feel like I was sitting down and watching a sellout movie or anything like that. No.
No, and when you're making movies like this kind of movie, where is your funding coming from? Probably from another movie where you made a compromise because it's coming from mostly your own production
You
company.
do one for art, one for money.
One for the team. And I mean, even with the Netflix movie that we're talking about, I forget what it's called
Hit
at the end.
Hitman.
Hitman? It was called Hitman, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
Hitman.
literally.
What I think is so great about Linklater is that even when he's genre bending, what is part of his auteur concept is not just this like you're feeling you're really there with real
Yeah.
people who actually exist, is he takes risks. So how can it be
Yes.
part of his like, oh, he always takes risks and it doesn't feel canned. It doesn't feel like he always takes the same risk. He twists the ending. No, it's that he always puts himself in a weird place that is contrary to something he's already done,
Yeah.
and we still like what he comes up with. That's fucking
He's a
hard to
thinker.
do.
It is really, well, I think it comes from a deep sense of knowing yourself. I don't know him personally. I'm acting like I feel like I'm like a historian, like talking about like
Mhm.
the person they studied and like he was a little rascal. Like, no, like I don't, it's like King James and you're like, you didn't know him. Yeah. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know him, but I do know that like just from watching his work, listening to his interviews, like just, documentaries and stuff, like I do know that he is a thinker and he's someone who like is an investigator. And like, I don't know if you're into like Enneagram or Enneagrams, but like mine is, I think it's 5. It's the investigator, and I really, really, really have always resonated with that. I'm a very curious person. I think a lot of artists are really curious people. He's someone to me who is a total investigator, and I get that and I see that because I am too. And his type of analyses and his type of like takes on stories and interpretations, like it's someone who hasn't done like a lot of reflecting and knowing themselves. I don't think they could pull that off, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it's literally so consistent that it's just him, I think. I think he's a true like original. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like we mentioned earlier, the willingness to be working with other people who might have a better life experience or a more tangible voice to amplify at this moment.
Yes.
That that ability to step aside is like in the documentary making of this. They were talking to Rory Cochrane about working with him, and he
My
jokingly
God, so different, right?
yeah, jokingly starts saying that like, oh yeah, he's a Mussolini on set because it's you the farthest you could be from what he's actually like on set because he's so easy and affable and
Yeah.
excited and interested in what people are saying. Keanu Reeves is going home and reading the book in Italian and in different versions to see what the interpretations are, and like he's got a copy that Philip K. Dick noted himself so that he can see what he's written about the like.
Whoa.
He was in it to win it. I mean, they
Cool.
originally wanted to make this right after The Matrix. And Keanu Reeves was like,
Really?
I cannot do another sci-fi thing right now because I will die. I will die. Don't make me do another sci-fi thing.
That's that's too much internal. Yeah, I could definitely see that being a lot. Yeah.
And he's the reason they got Robert Downey Jr., who is just like, this
Really?
is 2 years before Iron Man. So Robert Downey Jr. is in that like reinventing himself phase where he's
No
clean now and
way.
he can't. And so he sees that Keanu Reeves is working with Richard Linklater, and he's like, whatever you guys are doing, I'll do it. Please, just and I'll wait. So they wait for a couple of years, and then they reapproach Keanu again, and they're like, now maybe yes, some. And he's like, sure, totally.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
And I really
Wow.
love both of those people for this because you get this like just this ethereal feeling from Keanu where like you believe him as both the schmuck who can't get his life together and the like guy who originally wanted to be this cop who had this family. Like you can see that in him. He's got this everyman about him. But the casting of Robert Downey Jr. was so
Brilliant.
clutch. Maybe Jeff Goldblum could have done that as well.
Totally.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
you have to hate him a little. And I think it's hard to hate Goldblum, whereas the Downey Jr. had just the right amount of like
Have you seen
insaneness.
he did a oh my God. Have you seen The Big Chill from the 80s?
Yes. Yes,
It's
yes.
so easy to hate Jeff Goldblum in that for me. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Touche.
I don't know, but I
Touche.
agree. But I do agree with you. Like that's the only role I've. That's let's be real. That's the only role I've seen him in where I'm like, girl, if they remade this now, you would not. You wouldn't even be with friends. You know what I mean? But that's like the. That's genuinely the only time. Like I love him in everything else I've ever seen
Yeah.
him in. Yeah, I completely agree with you. The casting was so clutch, and like I totally believed like Winona as the spoiler, like kind of double agent, kind of like, oh, like what do I do? I believed, and I did not believe for a second she was a drug dealer also in the movie. Not even just because of her, right? Just because like it was all the signs were so clear that she was a narc. Like she wouldn't, be with Keanu Reeves. Like she kept her distance. She was too like put together in certain ways. I was like, girl, no, you're not. There's no way. Something else that also I wanted, but before I forget it, was the California setting. Also, maybe you were going to touch on this. Was fascinating to me. So it's really interesting to hear that Philip K. Dick kind of came up in that counterculture in California because, as we both know, Linklater loves to explore within Texas because he's also from there, and he's a big reason why it's so special to see a place where you grew up on screen. So it's like that's another reason I love him so much. And I was wondering why he chose Orange County. So that makes a ton of sense to hear that that was sort of Philip K. Dick's like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a really fun way in which they did it, which is
It
that
is, yeah.
because it's rotoscoped, so much of the background simply needed to be flat textures and then could be changed later on in rotoscoping. So all of this film is shot in Austin, Texas. All of the B-roll background is actually from Anaheim. So when you're on the highway, all of that, they are drawing actual footage of Anaheim. The car itself is in a green screened studio in Austin, Texas. The house is
I
in
was
Austin, Texas
duped.
too.
I was duped. Okay, so it was still in Texas.
So
Okay,
set
well,
in
that tracks.
Anaheim,
Yeah.
there's a lot of Anaheim being drawn, but it's still Linklater, so it's still in Texas.
Okay, that makes more sense. That makes more sense.
I like that you picked up on that. Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, I was like
absolutely.
California. Although, I mean, I always say California and Texas feel like sister states to me because it takes forever to drive and the highways are insane, at least in Houston, where I'm from, like around where I'm from. And climate too, in certain ways. Like the climates are so vastly different in both states. You know what I mean? And also, a lot of film people are now, and just in general, people are moving to Texas. So California and Texas kind of feel like linked in that way. Pun
Definitely,
intended.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah. Even though the politics are vastly different. Although
the
Austin
politics
is
are,
that like
yes,
oasis.
it's like the blue dot. Yeah, exactly. It's like the blue dot in Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what did you think of the injections of humor in this? Because there are moments that
Yeah.
are very close to kind of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It has like a gonzo journalism quality about it, especially in the Robert Downey Jr. and Woody Harrelson characters, especially in the scene where they're trying to find the 8 missing gears or the 10 missing gears on the bike, which is the first scene they rotoscoped. They started right there with that one scene.
Oh,
So that was their scene one. But I love the like dedication to the world that they're in. Like they're so intelligent. They're such gearheads. They fully understand how a bicycle works, but that is not what has fucking happened with this bicycle.
right. I think look, I mean, it is a drama. It is dark, but those moments of levity are so important. Like, to keep, I think that's something that I often think about, like not being like a comedy person. And I think like Linklater is just so good with that. Like a lot of his stuff is deeply introspective and there's all the like and there's drama, there's a lot happening under the surface, but there are these moments of levity and I think they're earned and they're never like or at least it didn't feel cheap. And I love the scene too with the gears that you're talking about because it shows it's like these aren't like I think it humanizes them more, maybe normalizes it because it's like these aren't unintelligent people. These aren't people who, yeah, like these are people who have a lot of potential and still maybe do in some ways. And truly, like, you're just kind of one bad decision away from like a really dire circumstance. And it humanizes that and it shows like some of the most brilliant people sometimes are unfortunately, the people who are in bad situations, whether it's houselessness, whether it's addiction, whether it's domestic violence. Like, I mean, you're just bad luck, bad decision. Like, you're just kind of one step away from that. And I think he did a really good job of like humanizing that and bringing levity with like Woody Harrelson and like who I also love. I love Woody Harrelson. And I think he did that really well in True Detective season 1 too, which is like filmed all so that's where I'm from in Texas, like in Louisiana, like all where True Detective season 1 is filmed is like where I'm from. So he did such a great job of like bringing levity to that. And I think he was a great casting choice. And also like just like the innocence of like Winona, like she just is kind of always, yeah, just such like an anchor in that way. Yeah.
I really appreciate that because as a horror filmmaker, I know that
Mm,
comedy is the palate cleanser. You can't
yes.
just keep scaring somebody. It doesn't have to be like a wacky, huge joke. You just have to reset. Because when we laugh culturally, we're laughing to tell the group we're all safe. It's okay. So you get everybody to reset to it's all safe. We're okay. And it was really important to humanize these people. The story is about how this could happen to anyone, how these people are Philip K. Dick's friends who were artists, who were brilliant, who had something to offer. And I always think about that saying, you're usually one bad month away from being homeless, and you're never one good month away from being a millionaire. You're significantly more close to the latter.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And when you think about it in those terms, it can really flip your perspective. And absolutely what you're saying about horror too. It's like comedy is such an underrated genre and tool. I think like especially comedic actors, I'm always so impressed by comedic actors because I know they can run the gamut of like a really dramatic role too. I know that they can carry that because you're so in tune with like both sort of like ends of the spectrum of drama and humor.
Yeah, it's really hard to do, and I wish that people had more of a like understanding of when that is happening and why that is happening, as opposed to just being like either caught in one or caught in the other. Either you get people who are like, wow, that comedy really undercut the message of this for me, or people
Mm-hmm.
who watch this movie and only think that it's funny when it is also like deeply humanistic. It's so easy for people to want to vilify people and say
Yes.
that like
Yes.
these people made these decisions and that's exactly how they got to be the way that they were, but the reality is
No,
they're way
no.
more intelligent than you think. I mean, think about, I'm saying gonzo journalism, like think about Fair and Loathing in Las Vegas and think about how intelligent and all of the stuff that Hunter S. Thompson wrote in his career, an incredibly literary mind that was like soaking in the sauce.
I haven't seen I haven't seen Fear I haven't seen Fear and Loving in Las Vegas.
You should. It's good stuff.
I'm trying to think of journalism movies. I mean, I mean, Aaron Brockovich probably isn't the best example, but yeah,
I really do think you should take a watch on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It is a fun movie with a lot of good cameos and has a little bit more of that like vignette style, but is
yeah,
very specific. It does kind of what this film does, which is that it's a world where what
yeah,
we're seeing is so unreal that you get to see the interpretation of what your character is seeing versus the reality of what is being
yes,
shown here.
yeah.
And that is done mostly through rotoscoping. How familiar with rotoscoping were you before watching this movie? You've seen Waking Life, obviously, right?
Right, right. Very little. Like I had seen Waking Life, which is obviously like so different, like in terms of like the structure. Like it's way more like kind of free form, very meta and like philosophizing, and like even his other characters are kind of coming in and weaving in and out. But that was my first, I think that was my first and only experience with rotoscoping. And I'm not too familiar with like how they exactly do it. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much an entirely filmed film. Period. Like Linklater shot and filmed an entire film. The backgrounds, like I said, in certain places needed to be
Yeah.
textured in and stuff like that. But you start with what could be shown, and then you draw each frame on top of the existing frame. You take a shot, you put it in a shot file, and it's just like cell animation where you're inking every individual frame. They divided it so that there would be specific people doing specific characters, specific people
Yeah.
doing lines, specific people doing colors. They had only one female animator, and they found that if they didn't let her do Winona Ryder's features didn't come out right.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by that. Yeah.
So Winona was drawn by a woman, and I really feel like that
Good.
shows when
Yeah.
you see her and the way that she's shown. And what is so important about this is you get the actual performances from the actors in your
Yeah.
final piece. And you do see
Yeah.
this with stuff like Pixar and Disney now, where they'll record the recording session and they'll use the mouth of the actor and the face of the actor to kind of throw it into the
Or with
like
like the
saber-toothed
green
tiger
dots.
that looks,
Right.
not even the
Yeah.
green dots,
Oh,
they'll
really?
draw and be inspired by. So
Oh,
if you
that's
look back
cool.
at like the Little Mermaid, they had people doing actual scenes from the Little Mermaid, and they would send that to the animators, and the animators would base their stuff on it. It wasn't rotoscoped directly on top of, but it was
Oh, that's so
like
cool.
artistically inspired by. So you can see the actual lady who looks like
Oh,
Ariel
oh
in
yeah,
real life.
yeah. Oh, they used to do that in old Hollywood too, with like a bunch of like the early Disney movies. Like they would film like an actor kind of like on like a stage to do that. I'm also thinking, did you see that movie Loving Vincent in like
Yes.
2017
Yeah.
or 18? Hand painted like in Van Gogh style over every frame. And they did this. So yeah, so they did the same thing. They filmed the entire movie like a scanner, like very similarly to A Scanner Darkly. And then it took like I don't have the numbers, but it took like months and like hundreds of artists, and they It's a gorgeous, gorgeous movie to watch. I saw it in theaters in Portland when I lived there at Cinema 21, which is like, love that movie theater so much cinema history there. I think like going back to Gus Van Sant, like
Yeah.
I think Drugstore Cowboy premiered there. I don't know, crazy cinema history, but I need to go back and rewatch Loving Vincent because it was actually the first thing I thought of when I was watching A Scanner Darkly. I was like, oh yeah. And so also, does that mean that like the special effects and stuff, like with the bugs in the first scene of Scanner, the bugs weren't there. It was just the actor acting it out. Oh, so then you can kind of save on like effects and okay, yep. Now yep, I see the vision.
So can you
Yeah.
see why Richard might have been interested a little bit in
And
this
rotoscoping,
concept
yeah.
for this story? Because things like the suit, where the person's constantly changing,
Yes, yes, yeah.
how would you how would you do that without spending millions of
Yeah.
dollars?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
it was
so
really interesting.
many Oh, go ahead, sorry.
What was really interesting about that is that like you have the rotoscoping to do the reference drawings for what you see, but the suit itself is made an amalgam of people that aren't there. So the artists in the studio were sketching different versions of people that they kept, and they had to keep coming up with one for every different second. There's a term that comes from the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it's called bumping the lamp.
Fave.
Are you familiar of the scene where they're handcuffed together and they're in the back room and Bob Hoskins is trying to saw off the shackles, but
Oh, yeah.
he hits a lamp above them, and the lamp is swinging back and forth like this, and it's changing the lighting in the room. And every time it swings, the drawing of Roger Rabbit and the light in the room has to be drawn differently.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Viewer, you probably didn't even notice that scene because
No, no.
it's just a physical gag. It took so long to do that it coined a term in the animation world called bump the lamp. And that means to go the extra effort with animation for
It's
something that is
fascinating.
just technically right, even though you know
Yeah.
the audience isn't going to notice.
Oh my God, but that is like the whole point, I feel like, of I don't know, being a filmmaker and being a cinephile. It's like, I mean, really of any craft too, of any artist, of any craft. It's like
Mhm.
it's the things that maybe like the Gen Pop person wouldn't catch, but it's there for the artistry because I mean, film is forever, you know?
Yes, and
It's
this is,
cool.
and when we're talking about like what it is to be human, this is such a human thing. We're drawing human faces, and we're taking the decision to make it take longer to do it in this fashion. It is such a bump the lamp moment because we could easily use AI right now and have AI generate a bunch of different faces, and it would take no time and no money. But the point of what is being said in film is often said through the medium, and I wish
Yeah.
I could get that through to people's heads when they're just like, I don't know why animating stuff, and I'm like, sometimes the medium
Yeah.
matters.
Well, yeah, and it's like I think to be honest with you, like my sort of take on Waking Life or like Scanner Darkly at first before even watching it or really giving it a chance, which I mean is the whole point and which is why I love the concept of your podcast, was I was like, okay, he's just trying to show off, like he's just trying to do this cool new technique just to, like, all the male filmmakers always, yeah, whatever, whatever, whatever. But then I'm like, oh yeah, the changing suit, the bugs, like the all these little things, because who wants to watch a movie shot live action, with like a ton of CGI and a ton of screen and like sci-fi movies, I like that genre. It makes so much sense to me now why, if he was going to genre switch and do sci-fi, he would do it his way, in this way, because the last thing I would expect from a Linklater film is a ton of CGI, a ton of like green screen, and just like that whole, you know, I don't know, that whole thing.
Yeah. It,
It
it
makes
does, it
sense.
really disconnects from not only what is the point of what we're asking our viewers to think about what is to be human, but what is we assume is the driving force for making films for Richard Linklater, which is the question as well. What is it to be
Yeah.
human? And when we talk about rotoscoped films, it's so hilarious that you're like, Loving Vincent, I totally know that one. With the exception of Apollo 10 and a half, A Space Age Childhood, which I have not seen. only because I didn't know it existed, which is also Richard Linklater. He did another rotoscope in 2022 that I missed, and it's a feature film.
Oh, I did too. Oh my God, what is it?
It's called, that's what it's called. It's called Apollo 10 and a Half, A Space Age
Apollo 10 and
Childhood.
a half. Oh my God, I need to check this out. I'm gonna add that to my
That
watch
is
list.
the most recent rotoscoped featured film. Then it's Loving Vincent. And
Oh, cool.
And to date, since its rotoscoping comes into existence in like the 1980s with this like weird thing called Coco the Clown, then it gets used for shorts and stuff like that. But it doesn't get used until 1978 when the Lord of the Rings rotoscope gets made. And I think that's probably the one that most people have seen is that Lord of the
I
Rings
didn't know
rotoscoped
that.
version. Famously, they left everything in. Like in one of the scenes, someone is running and their scabbard falls and it makes them trip. They just animated the trip in. They don't give a shit. Just draw it. So like
I had no idea Lord of the Rings used that. That's crazy.
the oldest one, not the
Oh, not the most, yeah, like the
not the newest one,
70s,
the
78. Yeah.
1978 animated rotoscoped
Oh,
Lord of the Rings is the first rotoscope. I'm talking feature only. There's a bunch of films that do rotoscoping. Technically, Who's Afraid of Roger Rabbit is rotoscoping because you're drawing on top of the existing stuff. But when you're drawing in the way that we're talking about, where you're drawing everybody, there are only 8 feature films like that. And 1, 2, 3 of them are Richard Linklater's, and 3 of them are Ralph Bakshi, who is the guy who did Lord of the Rings. So, like, I think we could pretty safely say this is his thing. Like, if you're watching a rotoscoped film in the current period, you're probably watching a Richard Linklater.
isn't flatter.
Yeah, it's amazing to think you're like, oh, he kind of put his fingerprint on it.
I know, yeah, and it really is like such like a him thing to do, I feel like too, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like these conversation as plot, also like his other kind of like I feel like main thing, like conversation as plot, like
Mm-hmm.
there are, I mean, certainly there are several movies like that, like The Big Chill that I named from like the
Mm-hmm.
80s. I mean, certainly that is a thing, like that is, but I really feel like with the Before trilogy, that kind of set the tone for so many other things to be made, like within the last like what, 3 decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I watch kind of like something that like really happens over the course of one night or happens over the course of one month or
Yes.
that features conversation as plot, I'm like Linklater. But it's also really cool to be like rotoscoping Linklater. Like that's really cool. It's really cool to me that a director can be both like technically forward and also like just like I don't know what you would call that, just like
Medium
auteur
specific.
forward, medium
Yeah.
specific. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just like
Yeah.
very much like his style and his take. Yeah, it's really fascinating. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. He's done like 3 now.
Well, you'd have to go to him if you wanted
Yeah,
to do another feature, just because I think he would have the handle on the like 10 animators who do this. Most animators don't do
right,
this. And the
right.
software, I'm sure he's got the best version of it. But also, very specifically, the acting that is done for this. I don't know how much background you have in acting. I do know that you Hitchcocked yourself in your latest short, which is that you threw yourself in. I love when people are like, Katie, you Hitchcocked yourself. And I'm like, guess who was available and working for
Yeah,
free?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Guess who? Yeah, exactly. When you're making something for nobody, you're in a lot of your stuff. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
because I want to be like Hitchcock. Uh-huh, uh-huh.
exactly. It was
Is
intentional. Yeah.
is that the acting needs to be more theatrical. It needs to be a little
Yes.
bit bigger. It needs to be cartoonish, but it can't be too cartoonish because we're literally drawing on top of you. So there would be many times when I was watching the making of where Robert Downey Jr. and Rory Cochrane were talking about moving their faces more than they were ever normally used to moving their faces, and it would either hit really well, and Linklater would be like, yeah, yeah, and there was a couple times where Linklater was like, okay, I see what you're doing, but do know that some of that needs to be left to the animation. So bring it back a little. And that is
Yeah,
fascinating to
that's
me, the idea
fascinating.
that this is a
Yeah.
specific acting challenge that this director is very good at getting that performance out of people.
Yeah, yeah. That takes a very skilled like it takes a skilled director, and it also, like I was saying earlier, like takes someone who really deeply knows themselves and who knows their medium and their form. And yeah, I love that the actors were going big because that can be like, I imagine I acted one time in like a school play in middle school, so I'm not by any means the authority, but I try to read books on acting and listen to podcasts about acting because I think it's important to understand
Hmm.
all of the areas. And so it's like I imagine it's kind of, it can feel a little embarrassing or weird just to be like, I'm gonna over exaggerate. So it takes a lot of trust. I think that also kind of tells me that like there's a lot of trust with him and on his sets, which I think is really cool to be able to be like, okay, we gotta tone it down, but I love what you're doing. And I'm sure that like a lot of like the over expressing like still made its way into the final version. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The twitches that you see on
Which is,
Cochran's
yeah.
face. I think you really had to trust him because some of the costumes were to the part where Robert De Niro is just wearing long johns and like clogs. It's
You
like
have to
goggles
take
on his
yourself
head.
not seriously. Yeah, well, and especially to play these guys, right? Like you have to like
Hmm.
take yourself really not seriously. Yeah, I really liked his, or like the casting director and his casting choices. Yeah.
So, when we're talking about rotoscoping versus other animation things, personally for you, do you prefer something like rotoscoping that holds so close to the actor's performance, or something, say, more like the height of the other spectrum, which is Miyazaki, where they are using, again,
Mm,
that's another person who's going to film people doing the actual movements
yeah.
and then animate them, and they do more frames than are necessary to really get you the fluid motion of their action, but it is
Yeah.
very stylized. Which do you prefer?
I feel like, okay, so I feel like as a viewer, I really enjoy I don't even know what you would call like the style of like Avatar or like Rango or like some of these like animated movies where it's like the actors had dots on their face. Like, you know what I mean? Like that type
Motion
where,
captured.
yeah, or like Monster House, right? Where it's like the actors get
Yeah.
to like, they're like, getting to do the stuff. I gravitate towards that because I kind of feel like you get both. Like I love the performance and I love the like aesthetic of it. Like I'm sure a lot of people do. So it's like that always kind of like really deeply like intrigues me where like the actors still get to have like their physicality, but I feel like as a director, like I would want to err more on the side of like if I was going to do something animated, like I would want to err more on the side of like probably like the motion capture rotoscoping spectrum because it's like that kind of preserves like the actor's performance more, you know what I mean? Like and I liked how realistic it felt. I really enjoy watching all types of animation, to be honest. I'm always like so, especially like hand drawn. I mean, just like the craft of it. I just think it's so interesting. Like, I can't remember his name. It escapes me right now, but there's a documentary about the painter, like background artist who did Bambi and like a lot of the early Disney movies and just like I mean, truly, you could take any still from Bambi and it is like a breathtaking painting. I love that so much. But also, that's used more with like, animals and stuff, which can still be really, cool. Like, a lot of those like Disney movies, yeah, like Fox and Hound and all the ones that like I really loved, like really featured like it was like animal first, which I really also liked a lot because I'm such an animal lover. Yeah.
I find animation so fascinating if
It's
you're
so interesting.
involved, especially in the editing aspect, which we both do a lot of
Yeah.
our own editing,
Yeah.
because you can do stuff like what you're describing, where we know our frames per second, we know what we're shooting when we're shooting live, but we can play with that when we're doing animation to affect how the viewer is feeling. And I could do a one shot of a really well done painting and kind of Ken Burns it a little. Everybody always says that Ken Burns invented that. And I was like, bitch, did you watch any anime from the 80s?
Right.
There's the Attack on Titan did this every 10 seconds. Um, and give you all of that and then go back to a less like detailed version of what we're looking at, and your mind holds on to all those details and that
Yes.
richness, and it remembers
Yeah.
that and it forgives that, and it exists. I think so much of what happens in animation happens at a level that the most obvious surface viewer isn't noticing, which is a
Yeah.
shame, but it's also why it's so
Yeah.
awesome.
That's why it's so cool because it's like, yeah, like with that artist who did the Bambi artwork and so many other movies. I really wish I could remember his name. I cannot remember his name. You can find the documentary online though. Yeah, well,
Katie, ADRing in the answer. Tyrus Wong, the artist who changed Disney.
I need to remember his name, and there's a really good documentary about him. And I listened to him give like a virtual keynote in the pandemic, and he was awesome. I think he's sadly since passed away, but he was like a very beloved animator. And I think he was from a country in Asia or Southeast Asia. I want to say it was from Japan, but I digress. We'll find the animator name and you guys will have it. But I just really, really loved that you do all this detail for something that's going to maybe be on screen at some points for like half a second. There's something kind of like heartbreakingly beautiful about that, like very poetic about that, like
Mm-hmm.
the care of like hand drawn animation and how it is kind of like a lost art, especially these days.
Even hand digitally drawn feels like is a lost art because we start to see the invention of horde, and I get it. I mean, this is what happened to stop motion people when Jurassic Park came out and they decided to be
Yeah.
able to do what they did with CGI. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we're taking steps in certain directions, but how far before we remove what is called the magic of cinema? I don't doubt that a computer can do this. I
Yeah.
see you do this.
Yeah, like I want the human hand. Oh my gosh, yeah, this actually like really reminds me. Have you watched The Studio on Apple TV with Seth
Of
Rogen? You
course.
have?
Like
Okay, that's I
twice.
love that. Oh my God, it's so good, right? It's
So
so good. And
good. I
I
love
mean, I have
Altman. Altman is great at
yeah.
shots and composition, and you should just watch everything he's made.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, completely. Yeah. I love that show and I think it's hilarious. And I love things that go behind the scenes. Like ever since I was young, like do you remember Disney Channel movie surfers?
No.
I that would play like on Disney, like in between like, the Disney Channel original movies or the
I'm
shows, and it would
just
go like
too old
behind
for
the
Disney
scenes. I
Channel.
know, yeah. I know. I'm trying to think if Nickelodeon had something similar. Maybe they did, but like getting to go behind the scenes has always been so fascinating to me, always. And so, where was I going with this? What was I just talking about right before that? I'm nerding out too hard.
We're talking about animation
It's the studio.
studio.
Okay, there was a great episode. Do you remember the episode where they're trying to make the Kool-Aid movie and the
Yes.
director's like, "Oh yeah, no. We're not going to use like AI. Like don't we need to fix one thing." And then it turns into like the whole thing that plays out, right? Where people are like, "You're firing like artists." Like yeah, that's something I think about a lot is how like that was probably how it was for like hand drawn and CGI people. Like, you know what I mean? Like now we're like so far, yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah.
Is a wonderful How Did It Get Made for Jurassic Park that's in the Movies That Made Us section of Netflix, in which you could actually see the guy who was supposed to do all the little stop animation talked to the camera about actively watching his art form die in front of him. You could just make a movie just on that one scene
That's
alone.
heartbreaking. That's so
Heartbreaking. It is
sad.
effectively the two old people from Titanic scene, but in a documentary.
Yeah. Real. Yeah.
And I really feel for you
Yeah.
because you get this double end thing. Because I'm immediately
Yeah.
thinking, like, Doug Jones can do anything. Why not just put Doug Jones in the practical act, get your Andy Serkis, put him in the costume, get really good makeup, get Temp Savini, and you don't need to CGI anything. But then also, I do know how many times have we put Alan Tudyk in a stop motion suit and he's knocked it out of the park. Like, if you need somebody to be an android, you got to get Alan Tudyk.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And we
yeah.
shouldn't just make one actor in charge of everything just because they
No, no,
fit the
no.
mold and they're a big, tall, skinny guy. I love you, Doug, but you can't have everything. So, like, I don't know.
Typecasted as a robot, like would be like a good memoir. Yeah, like I was typecasted as a robot. Yeah. I lived it. Yeah, no, it's so real, and that's why it's so hard to choose one because it's like I feel like with so many of my answers, I'm like, well, both, but because it's like, oh, it's so tough. I love it all. Like I really do love it all, and I feel, and it's this is kind of like the crux also of like I feel like being an artist, and you probably relate. It's like, but I can see it both ways. Like I can see it both ways, and there's
Mhm.
so many different ways to like drop into these ideas or like these things that are happening and like the things we observe as artists. Yeah, it's like the world is really like your oyster. There's so many different perspectives on things.
That's when we start to talk about media literacy, and that's when context
Yeah.
matters. And you're like, why is one version of what seems to be exactly the same thing better or worse than the other? And that's the reason why knowing how something is made matters, because that's what will make things different. And that's why people get excited about talking about movies. Although there are some people who literally will fight you and yell at you and say, like, don't, just watch the damn movie. And I love those people. Bless their hearts. They're not listening, don't worry.
Bless their hearts, because I fear sometimes that's me. Like I'll be like on IMDb actively making all the connections. Like the other day, like do you this is how I connect with straight culture. I keep joking. The Summer I Turned Pretty on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
I read the book when I was like, I promise this relates to film. I read the book when I was like 13 maybe, so a really long time ago. I was kind of shocked they made it into a series. Well, I watched an episode directed by Zoe Cassavetes, and I'm like, what? Huh? Zoe Cassavetes, like daughter of Gina Rowlands and like John Cassavetes, like has a
And the
very
other
yeah,
Cassavetes, yeah, pretty
and
good at what he does.
and Nick Cassavetes, like her
Nepo
brother,
baby.
like Nepo babies for sure. Also, Zoe's a huge collaborator with Sofia Coppola. I watched Sofia Coppola's first short, Lick the Star, the other day, and Zoe Cassavetes plays like the mean cheer coach, and I was just like, Easter egg after Easter egg. This is so cool. But Zoe, yeah, so like Zoe is like like a very successful TV directing career. And I'm just kind of always fascinated by these like crossovers and like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just fascinating to me.
Have you seen the film Sabrina? It's Humphrey Bogart, Audrey Hepburn.
Have I seen that one? I don't think so, but I love Audrey Hepburn movies. I don't think I've seen that one though.
You should watch it because it
Sabrina.
is pretty much the same exact story as The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Yeah.
In the way
Oh
that
yeah.
Bridget Jones's Diary is like Sense and Sensibility, I think that
Yeah.
might be true of The Summer I Turned Pretty.
It's like just a girl between two brothers. Like that's pretty
Who
much.
was not attractive when they knew each other, and now she's attractive. And what are
Yes.
they going to do? That's Sabrina. It's a great movie.
Or Legends of the Fall. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, if we're
I
gonna
forget
go,
about that one.
if we're gonna go, I watched that during a snowstorm because it's like it's like a 4 hour movie, and I was just like I was locked in. I listened to the soundtrack, the like just the instrumental soundtrack, like a nerd for like a month after that. Like I loved that movie. But yeah, it's like the girl between two brothers thing is like not novel in any way, you know what I mean? It's so funny.
It's compelling.
It
I mean,
works.
I think there's that the fact about there's only so many stories that you can tell when you boil them down to what they're basically about. Almost all stories are the same. It's about how you ad lib on that. So like, I
Yeah,
try not to rank too hard
agreed.
on things that are basically other things. Although sometimes like I will rank on Avatar, the James Cameron one, for basically being Fern Gully and Pocahontas together.
It is though, right? It really is.
Kind of.
It is. Well, and his whole thing is like it came to me in a dream, and I'm
The
like,
hell it did.
Did you watch Fern Gully first though? Like before you went to sleep? Did you
Was
watch
somebody
did you
watching
watch
it while you were
Pocahontas?
sleeping or something? Because, like,
That's so
girl.
funny. That's so funny.
Do you think you have a favorite scene from this film and a least favorite scene from this film?
Though I feel like the scene, okay, least favorite. Least favorite was probably the bugs, because that is like a fear of mine, to get like attacked by
Formication.
bugs. I feel like
Yeah.
that's pretty much like that's like pretty standard though. My favorite scene, I really just liked like when the core cast was like together in the house. Like I'm trying to pick out like a
Yeah.
specific one. I also really liked the reveal of Keanu Reeves being in like the changing suit. That was cool. I thought that was really cool. I really just loved like maybe like the gear scene, because that felt so Linklatterian, I guess if that's a word. Like that just felt like, especially with Cochran being there, it was kind of like Dazed and Confused 2.0. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
when Woody Harrelson is weird. Like I love when he's a weird guy, you know? So like I loved that. I loved like the moments between Winona and Keanu. Like they have been in things before together, I think, or they were in like a weird wedding movie where they played like love interests like fairly recently. But they just to me like seem like they've always acted together. Like they just have like a very seamless sort of maybe shorthand with one another. So that's my
Yeah.
long-winded answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Their vibe together is like, it feels
Yeah.
like they've been in 100 movies together, and you're like,
Feels like they, yeah, past lives type thing.
He's got that Johnny Depp quality about him as
Right.
well. So like you're like, am I remembering him or am I remembering
Oh,
Johnny
I
Depp
have
before he went
something
nuts?
I brought actually as a prop now that you're saying that. I was gonna wear it. I was gonna wear it, but I just got my bangs, so I'm not. But I wear this hat all the time because I
I
love
love
Winona and
it.
I love, and the infamous tattoo. So I wanted to show you that.
That's fantastic.
I love Winona. Yeah.
I think she's really understated in a lot of stuff that she does. And like here, it's very important that she remain herself when rotoscoped so that you feel that it's her. But also you have to know that it's not her under the suit right away, and she's so
Yes.
tiny, so they did
Yes.
that really interesting in a lot of
Yes, they
scenes
did.
where they're both sitting
Where he's so
down or he's
short.
standing and she's sitting, so
He's
you
really
don't
short.
really know the full size of the character, so you don't did you see that twist coming? Or yeah, it's good.
Especially because she wouldn't like, I mean, she does not seem like a drug dealer at all to me.
Yeah,
She cared way too much about all of their well-beings. I've never encountered a drug dealer like that in my life. It's like they don't care if you live or die. And then like she also like wouldn't like be with him. Like that was like a huge cue. Even though they clearly had
mm-hmm.
chemistry, she wouldn't. Yeah. So that I was like, oh yeah, because cops can't get involved. I could see her being a narc. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because they kept saying she didn't
Did
like
you see
physical
that coming?
touch.
Yeah.
Not on the first viewing. She didn't like physical touch, but she was always like leaning into him.
Yes, exactly.
I had a very specific first viewing for this film,
Oh,
and
tell me about it. I want to
get a
know.
little
Yeah.
personal for a second here, which is why watching it again for this, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it. A, knowing that I'm watching it as a Linklater film and really seeing it as a more of a case study in being human than a sci-fi adaptation of a novel I really love. Um, I hadn't read the story the first time I saw it. I just love rotoscoping and I love animation. And it was playing at Pleasant Street Theater, which I don't know if you know what that was.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So on Pleasant Street, where the weird Irish pub now is, that used to be a movie theater. And you would go into the basement and it had these like
Pleasant
really
Street
cute
in East Hampton or Northampton?
Northampton, sorry, in Northampton.
The one like where the watering hole is?
A little further up the street. So closer to the knitting shop.
Yes, that was a movie
There
theater.
was a movie theater. You go in and you went down to the basement and there were two different screens. So there were
God,
very tiny independent movie theater because right next to it was the VHS place, Pleasant Street Videos. So you would see new movies on
jealous.
one side and you would
Jealous.
videos on the other side, and it was wonderful
That
and I
sounds
miss
like
them so much.
my dream place
So
ever.
beautiful. Yeah, when we talk about venues, I'm like, why isn't that still
Why
open?
isn't that still here? That'd be perfect. Oh my God.
So I saw that in the basement of Pleasant Street Theaters the week that it came out with no context at all. But at the time, I was an exotic dancer and I had a pretty bad cocaine habit.
Oh my gosh. The lore.
And at the moment when Keanu Reeves is talking to Winona Ryder's character, and it's like the second or third time that someone is asked about how much of the drug that they're doing. And every time anyone is asked about how much of the drug they're doing, they always
Not
say,
that
like,
much.
it's not
No, not that much.
that much. And I heard myself saying that answer in my real life. And he says to her, I think it's been enough. I think we're done.
Yeah.
And I stood up. I went into the bathroom and I flushed all of the cocaine that I had. And I've never done cocaine again since.
And that was the scene. That was the movie that did it.
And I should have known it was Richard Linklater because someone like that is the kind of person who will talk through the screen to you to that effect. It just,
So
I
true.
saw, I saw exactly what Philip Dick was saying. There, but for the grace of God, go any of us. And if I don't step back from the precipice that I am on, I am headed for this. As funny as these people are, and I love my friends, but we're funny, but this can't be our lives. And so this
It's
movie really hit me.
yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. That's like, I mean, not to be corny, like that is kind of like the power and the point of art. And like the fact that a filmmaker and the performers can speak to you through the screen is like something that I just think is like the most fascinating thing ever. I it's funny because Requiem for a Dream came to mind while I was watching this, as I'm sure it did for a lot of people, right? And I've never done heroin or like any hard drugs like that, but when I was probably too, I was probably like 19 or 20 when I watched Requiem for a Dream, and I was just kind of like alone in my room, just kind of like just moved to Portland. I was just kind of like, okay, cool. Darren Aronofsky, love Black Swan. Let's see what this is about. It came out. I like emerged from my room like I'm never doing anything. Like I'm never touching any hard drugs. Like that is like kind of the power of like art. Like I don't know, it's just like fast. It's the whole thing of showing, showing and telling, or showing
Yeah.
versus telling. It's fascinating. And that conversation that Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder's characters have, like so much is being said, but it's not being said in that simple exchange, you know?
And that's the importance of using a type of patois or a type of dialogue that feels human. Because if Aaron Sorkin
Yes.
had said that scene, I might not have seen myself in the answer that Winona Ryder's
No.
character gives. It needs to feel like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that is me. That is important.
Yeah.
You should also watch, if we're talking about animated films, you should watch Perfect Blue, which is the Satoshi Kon animated film that Darren Aronofsky straight fucking ripped
Ripped
off for
for
Requiem for a
Requiem.
Dream and Black
No.
Swan. Like, when we're done, I'm going to send you.
Send me a list of like everything
I'm
you've
going to
told
send
me.
you a short clip of shot for shot, because he didn't just rip off the story, he rips off the
He
shots.
Reservoir Dogged it. Mm.
I love
Hmm.
Darren. Darren grew up exactly in the same place on Earth that I did at pretty much the same exact time, which is
Are
why
you?
Caught Stealing is so fun.
I was about to ask. Are you gonna watch Caught Stealing, or have
I
you?
loved it. I did, and I loved it. It was
I
great.
need to
Even
see
has a cat in
it.
peril, which I hate. I hate when a cat is in peril, but the cat is not really in super peril. But it is so Queens heavy.
Yeah. Wait. So you guys grew up in the same neighborhood? Did you like ever like cross paths or
He's a little
no?
bit older
Yeah.
than I am, and I think he went to a
Oh
different
yeah,
school
yeah,
than I did. But
yeah.
there's the like, oh
Going to
God,
school
this.
with Darren Aronofsky would be crazy.
And he
Damn.
has a history of
Yeah.
getting into a little bit of a fight with Satoshi Kon over stealing a bunch of his work. And Satoshi Kon unfortunately died of a heart attack very young, so we don't have any more of his work. But you should definitely check out Perfect Blue. It is one of the greatest examples
Yeah. I want
of
to check it out.
descent into madness that I've ever seen filmed. It's so
Oh, I
good.
definitely want to. Yeah, you have given me like some really good recs.
And
Definitely, I'm gonna be hitting you up after, and I'm gonna be like, "Give me."
well, the liner notes will have a list of every movie we've
Okay, good.
recommended.
Okay, it's like gonna be like
Just do it. I'll pull it out of the transcript.
that's so funny. It's gonna be Blue Crush, Requiem for a Dream. It's like gonna go.
I
This
said,
is this
what's
is
that?
the spectrum. Yeah.
That mermaid movie H2O. Throw that in there too. If you haven't seen that, you'll
Aquamarine.
understand that the guy on Instagram who does all the fake ones of it. No.
Nar, Clear Nar. Yeah.
Claire,
What is?
no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That is H2O, and I say that is. I want to get a so from Clifford the Big Red Dog, Cleo. I want to get a standard poodle one day and name her Cleo. And I already told my girlfriend, I was like, I'm gonna call her Clear also for short. For short. Yeah. For long.
Hard not to.
Right.
Bless.
I
So I could talk to
digress.
you forever, but as we
Yeah.
draw to a close, is
Yes.
there anything else you want to mention before we do our like how to find each other and stuff like that online?
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, about Scanner. Well, I'm really glad that this was the one that you suggested because I'll be honest, like I don't think I would have just gravitated toward it like naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really loved it as like its own thing and also as a book adaptation. Now I really want to go read the book because huge Bradbury Vonnegut girl. So gotta check
Yeah.
that out.
So yeah, well, I'll ask you the ending questions that we usually do, although the last one's kind of funny because I feel like by the time we get here we always know the answer. First question. Would you recommend this movie to other people?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
All right. All right. Any caveats on that? Do you feel like there's anyone you wouldn't recommend this movie to?
Oh,
I
for
mean,
sure. Yeah.
children.
Okay. Children. Yeah. Okay. Children. Maybe like older people who maybe it freaked them out because they're already afraid of cell
Yeah.
phones and like being surveyed. Probably wouldn't
I,
be good.
I wouldn't give this to my QAnon friends. They're already paranoid enough.
No. So anyone
Who am I kidding? I don't
paranoid?
have QAnon
No.
friends. Ugh.
I was about to say no. No. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I would. Not recommended to anyone who's paranoid or children, but and I would probably caveat it like it's not what you're gonna think it is, but you'll be surprised, and I'd probably just leave it at that because I don't want to spoil it, you know?
Yeah, at an hour and 40 minutes, it's really hard to kind of summarize this. I mean,
Yeah,
ultimately, it's a
yeah,
story about a cop who gets, put undercover and then winds up being used to try and expose
yeah,
the fact that the rehab center is also the company making the drug to get people hooked, which I
yeah,
mean, how many times can we think about
yeah.
stuff in our society right now where like the Sacklers
It's
are
kind of
constantly being sued for exactly that kind of fucking behavior?
it's hitting closer and closer to home, and so that's why like it being in '06 is even more, and being written even
Mhm.
further like or farther back is like extra impressive to me because it's like it really holds up even now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. It starts with 6 years from now, and you're like 2012. What?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, right. It's like not that crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in the sci-fi time period that Dick and Vonnegut and Bradbury were in did the like near future, where they're like 1985, 2001, and you're like, you're gonna still
Oh,
be alive though, dude. It's probably not gonna
yeah.
be like this.
I would go like three something. Yeah, like so far. Yeah.
Yeah. You can go super,
Yeah.
super far, all the way. I mean, actually, I just did a video on this. The time machine goes all the way to
Yes.
800,000. So, like, you could, and that was an old book. You could do whatever you want.
Yeah. 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 You're like, we're good. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think I would recommend this to almost anyone, except I guess I would give the caveat that like it is a hopeful telling of this story, but it is possible to miss that and feel very depressed by this movie. So if you're not in the right
Yeah.
headspace, might not be a great time to watch this movie.
Mental health warning for sure. Yeah.
Mental health warning, yeah. If you're, well, I mean, I was struggling with
Yeah.
addiction and I saw it, and it wound up being super great for me. So I don't even want to say that
So
like
actually, yeah.
it's hard to say. Like, buyer beware.
Watch at your
You
own
know you.
risk. It might help you. It might make
Yeah.
it worse. Yeah. Do with that what you will.
You do you, boo, as they say. And yeah, my final question is, having approached this film thinking you might not like it, and having not watched it, even though it is from a director you really admire, do you feel like this experience has given you a further look into that director and maybe something that you will use in your cinema experience?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, he definitely makes me feel less afraid to try new forms, despite maybe what other people will say. Something I'm
Yes.
really working on just personally and in work and professionally is like not giving so much weight to what other people think about something that you're doing. That can be really hard because we're kind of wired
Hmm.
for human approval and acceptance, but
Hmm.
he makes me feel less, scared to try new things, which is really great.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think he makes me interested in investing in a longer
Yeah.
story. Like, okay,
Yeah.
there's so much of a desire to have a film that's out right now at festivals that you could be talking about, but you could
Hmm.
also be slow cooking something like you did,
Yeah.
like a
But I
little
was about
bit
to
every
say
year.
Boyhood. Exactly. Well, I was
Yeah.
going to say Boyhood. Merrily We Roll Along. He's currently working on that. That's not going to be ready till he's, oh my God, like I think in his 80s. I think like he is not afraid to play with like time and form, and he's making stuff in that time. It's so fascinating to me. It's so inspiring to me. So yeah, ditto on that too. Like he makes me not afraid to like take up more space, like and like really take your time and like explore like a full length story.
And let it breathe, let it
Yes.
experience time and not be so precious, even though it is kind of precious. We can't go back and refilm that stuff. It is the way that it
No.
is, but that's the moment that we caught. So that in and of itself is worth it more
Oh
than
my God, yeah.
perfection. Yeah, and that's
Yeah, and
so
getting to watch his
beautiful.
daughter grow up in real time in Boyhood is like, how cool is like a parent, like, and a kid, like as a family? I don't know. Yeah, I just think, yeah, there's something to be said for that.
I'm going to recommend one more film before we go, and I'm going to not remember the title of it, so it's going to be in the end notes. But it is a Russian film from the writer director of Burnt by the Sun. It is a movie that got filmed of his daughter. So the interesting thing about Russian cinema is that during the reign of the Soviet era, for a long time, you couldn't really make movies. You had to make like propaganda. It had to all be approved,
Right.
and to be making a movie in any way that wasn't was illegal. And this director would film his daughter every year on like New Year's and ask her the same three questions about her perception of the world that she was living in. And then he would take the Super 8 and bury it in his backyard so that no one would find it. And after the fall, he took it out, he edited it together, and he released it. And you can watch this young girl experience the Soviet Empire and tell you about her feelings. It is just awesome.
I want to see this. Like, I want to see this ASAP. Oh my gosh, yeah. That's awesome. He
And
physically buried it.
yeah,
That's impressive.
That's how
Yeah.
meaningful to making the art it was. And it wasn't like amazing lighting. Right? It was what they could, it was a real guerrilla filmmaking to capture these moments in time. And that is, I'm so interested in the concept of cinema verite because
Me too.
you can easily catch a moment and then you can also easily just catch B-roll. I think sometimes when I think of stuff like Jonathan Glazer, he says like, this is cinema verite. And yet sometimes I feel like I'm paying for B-roll. So like, it's very hard to capture a moment.
Have you seen Under the Skin?
It got under my skin. I will totally admit, every single scene in the liminal space is mind-blowingly gorgeous.
I would have just watched that like the whole time.
The rest of the movie,
I just would have watched the whole thing.
Straight up, go fuck itself.
I wasn't the biggest fan of it as a whole.
I did a TikTok that entitled, if I'm on a date with a guy who likes Under the Skin, I'm leaving immediately. That's the biggest red flag I need.
That's a huge... When the top 4 is all violence against women, gratuitously, I'm like, gotta go. I don't
American
even play
Psycho,
for that team.
Old Boy, Fight Club.
American Psycho only, yeah, right. American Psycho only if it's because of the satire of the finance bro. I'll let it go. I'll let it slide, but it's still a lot. Yeah. It's so funny. I'm like, I don't even play for that team, and I'd be like, gotta go. Like, there's just no way. Yeah.
I can't even drink with you. A bunch of actors who are D&D skit makers did the scene where they're showing each other business cards, but they changed the business cards into different types of dice, and the dice keep getting fancier as you go along. Love that scene. That scene is hilarious.
Oh my god, I'm dead.
All right, so
this was really fun. Oh, do you have more?
I was gonna say, where can people find you online if they're looking to connect with you? They want to maybe follow you so that they can see where your short film is being aired, stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, so I am at the Rocca, VROCCA, pretty much everywhere. I'm mainly active on TikTok, but I'm also on Instagram and sort of Blue Sky. I don't know, haven't really invested too much time there yet. But and VictoriaRoccaforte.com. And yeah, the trailer for Only Time Heals is out right now if you want to check it out. And it's hitting festivals next month, so excited for that.
Trailer will definitely be in the liner notes, and we will include that for an easy link on YouTube as well at the end when it goes to that thing at the end and you can click on other videos. One of the videos will be the trailer, so you can really easy to click on it. This is why if you're listening to us on the podcast version of this, you are missing out. Even the Spotify version now has videos. So if you're on Spotify, you can still see this video right now. It's good stuff. Very exciting. I'm so hyped for you and to see how that festival goes out. I'm so excited that you got into lava as well. Really good stuff.
Yeah,
thank you so much for coming on. This is so easy to chat with you. Like I said, we could chat for forever, but we do need to keep this contained. So I'm Movie Runtime. You know how to find me. You already found me. You're here. Good job.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And on that, we're going to end. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll go into the corrections and omissions. So if you've been sitting here being like, what's the name of all this stuff they keep kind of remembering? It's going to be there. Welcome to Corrections and Omissions. This is the part of the show where we address anything that we may have missed out on or said incorrectly. We teased this already a little bit in the show, especially when Victoria was mentioning the short story about enforced equality. It was called Harrison Bergeron. That was Kurt Vonnegut, not Ray Bradbury. Sounded very Ray Bradbury. Easy mix-up in my opinion, but we got to get this stuff right. So that is in fact Kurt Vonnegut. I also said cheerleaders don't cry, like boys don't cry, and I was absolutely thinking of But I'm a Cheerleader from 1999. It's a satirical teen comedy that explores identity, conformity, and conversion therapy. Definitely recommend it. It's got Natasha Lyonne, very young, worth your time. The Russian documentary where the filmmaker asks his daughter the same question every year. That is Anna, 6 through 18. And it was Nikita Mikhailov was the director, whose name I absolutely could not remember. It was filmed over 13 years from 1980 to 1993. The project follows his daughter Anna as she grows up against the backdrop of Soviet and post-Soviet upheaval. Each year he asks the same set of questions. What do you love the most? What do you hate the most? What scares you? What do you want most of all? And her evolving answers chart not only her maturation, but the collapse of an entire political system. It's really insanely moving. Beautiful. The film won honors like the Silver Dove and the Grand Prix at the Leipzig Documentary Festival. Still, Anna herself has called it a little invasive and kind of a dissection of her private life and exhibitionism of her soul. In other words, it's both hauntingly intimate for a family portrayal and a political capsule, but it does she didn't really have the ability to consent at the time. So I just wanted to note that. Other quick note. Belladonna of Sadness, I said it was from 1973. It's from 1968. And the company that Elijah Wood had was called Spectravision. They were instrumental in restoring and re-releasing it. All of that out of the way, let's do a real quick lesson on rotoscoping and how that technique came to be and the history of it. I talked a little bit about it, but I'd love to just give you a little deep dive nugget right now. So let's take a minute to really break down rotoscoping, because it's one of those techniques that pops up in film history over and over, and it's really worth understanding how it works and why certain filmmakers return to it. Rotoscoping is essentially the process of tracing over live action footage frame by frame to create animations that mimic real human movement. Max Fleischer invented it in 1915 and patented it in 1917. And the first use for it was in Out of the Inkwell cartoons. I kind of talked about this a little bit in the episode, just very, very briefly. His brother Dave would dress up and act things out on film, and Max's team would trace that movement into the character Coco the Clown. At the time, this was insanely revolutionary. Instead of the bouncy, exaggerated gestures we associate with early cartoons, you suddenly had animated figures that were moving with startling realism. From there, rotoscoping had two major paths. One was technical. It was used a lot in visual effects. Like for decades, rotoscoping was the tool used to create mats, which isolate elements of an image. It's basically how compositing works. You trace out an actor or an object to layer it into a new background. Think about like the lightsabers in Star Wars. Their glow is literally the product of rotoscoping work. It's just been drawn over where it should be. The other path is aesthetic. Filmmakers who use rotoscoping in this way use it not just for the effects, but kind of as the backbone of their animation style. Ralph Bashki is a key name that we used here. I kind of said it really quickly while we were in the episode as well, which is why I'm doing this bit right now. He leaned into rotoscoping for films like Wizards in 1977. I mentioned his Lord of the Rings in 1978, American Pop in 81, and Fire and Ice in 83. His technique was divisive. Some critics called it lazy. It was just tracing over footage. And they kept stuff like when people fell down. But others saw it as groundbreaking. It was blurring the line between live action and animation in a way that not really anyone else was doing at the time anymore. Then in the 2000s, Richard Linklater redefines it with this technique of using digital tools. We talked about Waking Life in 2001, and then, of course, in 2006, this film, Scanner Darkly, used what sometimes gets called interpolated rotoscoping. Instead of simply mimicking reality, his animators also painted over the footage with shifting, unstable textures. The result wasn't realism at all. It was more dreamlike, hallucinatory. It kind of matches the themes of the book and this paranoid perception of identity and reality slipping out from underneath you very well. And so that kind of brings us to the present. And I did not mention this on the podcast because I only recently discovered this. Joseph Papa has a film from 2023 called The Missing. Papa is a Filipino director who has been pushing rotoscoping into really fascinating territory. He has a really experimental film that came out before The Missing called Mangnang Bireng in 2015. I apologize if that is not even close. But The Missing takes it further and uses the technique to explore memory and trauma and the fragmentation of identity, kind of like Scanner Darkly does. What's striking is how Papa uses the rotoscoping not just for stylistic flair, but as a narrative device. Characters appear distorted or unstable as their sense of self unravels. It's a wonderful reminder that this technique isn't just about realism or trippy visuals. It can also become a deeply expressive storytelling tool. Taken together, these films really show how rotoscoping has evolved from a technical shortcut to a stylistic signature, to even a narrative tool, to a tour marking. It's over a centuries old by now, but this filmmaking technique keeps finding new ways to be relevant and to be expressive and to be experimental, which is so fascinating to me because it feels like what's left to say, what's even interesting to still do if you want to be an experimental filmmaker like Richard Linklater. And honestly, so much. I really hope that if you did watch this film with us and you are interested in animating and you're interested in filmmaking, you felt an overwhelming sense of inspiration and hopefulness for your capacity to tell interesting stories, because I know that this film is very dire and can feel overwhelming and sad, but it is also beautiful and poignant. And I hope that you can see both sides of that coin. And that's it. That is all that I have for you guys this particular episode. It's a lot already. I gave you a mini lesson inside our corrections and omissions, but I ran through the corrections and omissions to try and make up for that little lesson that we just did. As always, I am Kt Baldassaro at Movie Runtime on all the social media things that could be social and media. You'll find me there. And I really do appreciate you for watching this episode. And of course, if you've made it all the way to the end, I hope you're having a wonderful day. And thank you so much.